Chapter 1969. Fortunately, like Yang Hua, her life was not in danger. She was only in a deep coma and needed some time to recuperate. I remember this disciple is called Qin Weiyang? He was the one who discovered the new nursery. How could it be him? It's over. He is the only one who knows the exact location of the nursery. The faction master has decided to summon him in 2 days to ask about the details. What should we do now that she is in a deep coma? What else can we do? Report the truth. This is going to be a big problem. If an ordinary disciple had fallen into a coma, the few Yin-Yang elders could still take charge and resolve the matter on the spot. But Qin Weiyang's identity was special. They could only report the matter truthfully. No one dared to hide anything. The eagle-eyed man's lips trembled as he listened to their conversation. It's over. In the restaurant opposite, Huang Fu Liang was invited by Su Yu again after a month. All of a sudden, Su Yu's figure appeared on the empty seat in front of him. Isn't this too cruel? Huang Fu Liang clicked his tongue. Directly attacking a dozen Tai Chi faction disciples. Even if the Yunxiang house did not die, it would still be in deep trouble. Su Yu calmly said, "Let's wait for the results." In less than 2 hours, a group of Tai Chi faction members wearing white robes, black swords at their waists, and purple hairpins arrived at the Yunxiang house solemnly. Huang Fu Liang's eyelids twitched. Oh my! They have indeed alarmed the discipline peak. Discipline peak? Does that mean we can already see the results? Su Yu said. Huang Fu Liang shook his head. Not necessarily. The ones in charge of discipline are humans, and humans make mistakes. So, if the eagle-eyed man was smart enough, nothing would happen. Inside the Yunxiang house, the eagle-eyed man swept his gaze across the table, stepping forward and immediately saying, "Sirs, please investigate. I have been doing business for hundreds of thousands of years, and I do not have the heart of a servant. You can search every corner of the restaurant." Search. The leader was a law enforcement officer with a square face who seemed to be full of righteousness. The group of enforcers immediately rummaged through the cabinets, looking for suspicious items. After searching, they all returned. There are no suspicious items. The eagle-eyed man hurriedly offered his storage space artifact with both hands. "This is my personal storage ring. Please take a look, sirs." The leader's eyes flashed with a hint of warmth. Luckily, the Yunxiang house master was sensible. Although it was called an inspection, it was actually giving them benefits in disguise. The leader took the storage device and scanned it, only to find that there was nothing else inside except 1,000,000,000 god stones. He smiled knowingly and took the 900 million divine stones in one go. Then, he handed the storage ring to someone else. "Well, for the sake of fairness, you guys check it one by one." A few law enforcement officers did the same thing and filled their own pocket. After looking through it, he returned the spatial storage device and said, "The inspection is complete. There are no suspicious items." However, the large-scale poisoning of the Tai Chi sect disciples happened in the Cloud Fragrance House after all, so during this period, the Cloud Fragrance House should cooperate with our investigation at any time. Since they dared to accept money from Fragrant Cloud House, they naturally understood that the deaths of the Taiji sect disciples were caused by someone else. If Yunxiang Gazebo wanted to become enemies with the Taiji sect, they would not be so stupid. "That's easy. Our Fragrant Cloud House will be at your service at any time," the eagle-eyed man said. The leader's eyes flickered. "Yes, it's best to take a sample of the divine wine and test it on the spot. What do you think? Do you have any objections?" The eagle-eyed middle-aged man knew that they wanted to extort another sum of money. It was not that the eagle-eyed middle-aged man was distressed. Now that things had come to this, he had to cross this threshold at all costs. The problem was that he already had a psychological shadow and did not dare to give the wine to outsiders. "What, you're not willing? Or are you feeling guilty?" The leader's face darkened slightly. The eagle-eyed middle-aged man hurriedly said, No, no, that's not what I meant. Thinking about it carefully, many of the law enforcement officers were three-crown emperors. They were different from Qin Weiyang and the others. There should not be anything wrong, right? Thinking about it, he took out a pot of pure yang. There were a total of 10 drops inside, just enough for each of them. The law enforcement officer's eyes immediately burned. This was the legendary pure yang. Usually, they could not bear to drink it even if they were beaten to death. Now, they had taken the opportunity to take advantage of it. Sirs, please test it. The leader said righteously, yes, everyone test 1 drop and see what's going on. Starting from him, everyone tasted a drop. After tasting it, the group of leaders was satisfied. Retreat. The eagle-eyed middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief. They had finally overcome this hurdle. However, at this moment, the group of law enforcement officers suddenly had pained expressions. Their bodies were filled with extremely dense death energy, visible to the naked eye. Ah, what did you give us to drink? The leader covered his neck, his eyes bulging and his expression ferocious. The eagle-eyed middle-aged man was already numb. He wanted to laugh but could not. The law of death is terrifying indeed. It's everywhere. I admit defeat. The eagle-eyed middle-aged man's expression was sluggish. He smiled bitterly and walked out of Cloud Fragrance House. He entered the crowd and did not look back. He had completely given up hope of saving Cloud Fragrance House. The people of Discipline Peak were all poisoned to the ground. How could Cloud Fragrance House be saved? Rather than that, it was better to pack up and run away gratefully. Otherwise, they would be treated as scapegoats by the Tai Chi sect. Not long after, the entire Tai Chi city was in an uproar. The people of Discipline Peak inspected Cloud Fragrance House. They were all poisoned to the ground. They barely managed to keep their lives after desperately trying to save them. Now, who dared to say that Cloud Fragrance House did not deliberately harm the Tai Chi sect? Discipline Peak was furious. They actually poisoned Discipline Peak. This was the same as provoking the Tai Sui. Discipline Peak sent hundreds of law enforcers down the mountain. In a rage, they tore down Cloud Fragrance House and arrested all the people related to Cloud Fragrance House. Among them, the eagle-eyed middle-aged man had already fled the 5-star civilization with his family's assets. His nephew was left behind. He was caught by the people of Discipline Peak and brought to the Tai Chi sect's prison to be interrogated. Witnessing this scene, Huang Fu Liang was stunned speechless. In just 1 month, Cloud Fragrance House, which had been established for hundreds of thousands of years, had been demolished. Everything was just as Su Yu had said. It had been completely demolished. This is ruthless, Huang Fu Liang said. But when he recalled the humiliation he had suffered at Cloud Fragrance House, he calmed down. This kind of restaurant should just vanish into thin air. All right, it's our turn. Su Yu slowly stood up. Huang Fu Liang said, "What are you going to do?" "To establish a foothold in the Tai Chi sect, of course." Cloud Fragrance House's poisoning of the Tai Chi sect had shaken the Tai Chi civilization. No one would have thought that Cloud Fragrance House, which had been established for hundreds of thousands of years, would harbor evil intentions. Luckily, we were lucky and did not drink the poisoned wine. I can only say that those people were too unlucky. If you ask me, the Cloud Fragrance House master is too stupid. Not only did he poison Yang Hua, but he also poisoned a group of disciples. Not only did he poison a group of disciples, he even dared to poison the people of Discipline Peak. It's unbelievable. Stupid? Haha, this is called the darkest place under the lamp. He is very shrewd. Let me ask you, in front of Discipline Peak, would you believe that he did it, or that someone else framed him? Hearing this, everyone came to a sudden realization. He is indeed cunning. After poisoning a group of people of Discipline Peak, he ran away. Only now did he reveal his true colors. Tsk, he really hid his true colors well. Sigh, what a pity. It will be difficult to find good wine in the future. As they spoke, they passed by the former site of Cloud Fragrance House. They found that the ruins had been demolished, and a magnificent restaurant named Wine Inquiry had been rebuilt. Someone has rented this shop again so quickly. And it's also selling wine. Why don't we try something new? The 3 Tai Chi faction disciples entered and found that it was deserted. Because it was newly opened, it was not very popular. What kind of divine wine do you have here? In front of the counter was a handsome, silver-haired man. He said calmly, "We don't sell divine wine." "Then you sell wine to mortals? Shopkeeper, is this worth it? The rent for this place is no less than 10 million god stones a year." The silver-haired man smiled faintly. "We don't sell mortal wine either. It's not divine wine, but it's not ordinary wine either. What kind of wine is it?" "Forget it, take out the wine list. We'll just choose." The silver-haired man said, "There is no wine list. We only sell one kind of wine." One kind? The silver-haired man casually took out a crudely made wine pot. There was a transparent liquid inside. "Try it?" "How much?" 10 million for a drop." The Tai Chi faction disciples were stunned. 10 million? "Open the lid. We'll smell it and know if it's worth the price." The silver-haired man sighed. "Seeing that you're the first batch of customers, I'll sell it to you at an extra discount. Once I open this wine, it won't be easy for you to buy it for another 10 million. Haha, this shopkeeper is an interesting person. All right, open it. We'll buy it no matter how much it costs." The silver-haired man did not say anything else. He opened the lid of the wine pot. The Tai Chi faction disciples sniffed it hard. The shopkeeper was selling it at such a high price. The fragrance of the wine must be extraordinary. However, there was no fragrance for a long time. "Hey, shopkeeper, what kind of wine did you brew? It's not even comparable to mortal wine." The silver-haired man said, "I didn't brew it. I just mixed some special ingredients with water." "What? You call this wine?" The Tai Chi faction disciples could not help but laugh. "This shopkeeper is really funny. He only makes fun of customers. All right, you can entertain yourself. We'll wait for Spirit Choice Restaurant." The few of them laughed and walked out of the restaurant. However, as soon as they walked out, they felt a few powerful auras breaking through the air and heading straight in their direction. "Are those the Yin-Yang elders?" "Several of them." In an instant, 4 to 5 Yin-Yang elders walked toward them with faces full of shock. We didn't do anything wrong, did we?" I don't think so. No one knows that we peeped on Junior Sister bathing last month, right?" The few Tai Chi faction disciples stood motionless. They were extremely nervous. However, the 5 Yin-Yang elders did not even look at them. They directly entered the restaurant behind them and followed some kind of aura to arrive in front of the shopkeeper. Wu Shuang stared at the wine pot in the shopkeeper's hand. "What is this?" one of the Yin-Yang elders asked in surprise. An old man who came later stared at the wine pot and said, "No matter what it is, I'll buy it all. You can name the price." The few Tai Chi faction disciples at the door were instantly dumbfounded. They stared at the wine pot again, not understanding what was going on with the Yin-Yang elders. How could something mixed with water attract 5 Yin-Yang elders? Chapter 1970. By the time they realized that they had missed out on something good, there were already 8 or 9 Yin-Yang elders gathered in the newly opened Wenjiu. Among them was Ying Fengxiu, who lived nearby. When he noticed that the shopkeeper was a silver-haired man, Ying Fengxiu was slightly surprised. "It's you. Wasn't he the disciple that Huang Fu Liang had recommended to him? Are you the shopkeeper?" Ying Fengxiu asked. The silver-haired man shook his head. "To be exact, I am the owner. The shopkeeper has hired someone else. Come out and receive the guests." "All right." A well-dressed youth walked out from the back of the hall. He looked energetic and wore a professional smile. "Owner." It was naturally Huang Fu Liang. "We have guests. You will be in charge of entertaining them." Su Yu passed the wine pot that had attracted the attention of many Yin-Yang elders to Huang Fu Liang. Yes, don't worry. They were the ones who had bought the abandoned Yunxiang house and built a brand new restaurant called Wenjiu. Elders, how much do you want? Huang Fu Liang asked with a smile. 1 pot, I want all of it. Huang Fu Liang nodded. 1 drop is 30 million divine stones. 1 pot has 100 drops, which is 3 billion divine stones. 3 billion. The Yin-Yang elder coughed violently, his eyes wide. Isn't this too expensive? The same price as pure yang. It's not expensive. Pure yang can only slightly increase one's cultivation level, but our Taishu contains rich absolute beginning energy in every drop. I don't think I need to explain what absolute beginning energy can do, right? Elders, you should know better than me. The expressions of the Yin-Yang elders changed. At their level, famous wines like pure yang were not attractive to them. Few elders would spend a fortune to buy pure yang. Usually, it was the disciples who joined in the fun. They all knew very well why they were gathered here. Because just now, they suddenly sensed the appearance of an unusual aura. It was the extremely rare absolute beginning energy of the absolute beginning realm. Its rarity was comparable to the 9 Yin elixir. Ever since the establishment of a 5-star civilization, absolute beginning energy had only been found in some ancient regions. Once it had appeared, it had been sold out. Alpha origin Qi was the first wisp of Qi that separated the heavens and earth. Everything in the world was derived from Alpha origin Qi. Although they were unable to transform the primordial Qi into anything they wanted, it could nourish their law chains and strengthen their laws after they consumed it. The strengthening of the laws could not only make the power of their chains of law stronger, but it could also make their chains of law more powerful. More importantly, the toughness of the laws was the key to breaking through to become a Tao Lord in the future. Compared to the weak progress in cultivation, divine items that could temper the laws were much rarer. It was definitely worth it to sell it for 30 million. One of the Yin-Yang elders pondered for a moment before deciding to give it a try. Let's try 1 drop first and see its effects. I'll take a drop too. The 12 elders each bought a drop. Only Yingfeng Xiao hesitated for a long time before stepping forward and revealing a smile. Lai Yang, I didn't expect you to be so amazing. To be able to make a divine wine with absolute beginning Qi, the younger generation will surpass us in time. Huang Fu Liang smiled professionally. Elder Ying is flattering me. The smile on Yingfeng Xiao's face deepened, and he said, When you have time, come visit the mansion. I can give you some pointers on your cultivation. The goodwill in his words couldn't be more obvious. Huang Fu Liang's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, he seemed to see the scene of Yingfeng Xiao giving him pointers in the past. But it was only for a moment. He no longer had any attachment to the fake past. Elder Ying, you are very busy. How could I disturb you? Huang Fu Liang rejected him tactfully and asked, Elder Ying, do you want the Taishu as well? Yingfeng Xiao was disappointed that he couldn't win him over. A tinge of regret surfaced in his heart. Why didn't Huang Fu Liang tell him earlier that he had such a friend? If he had told him, he wouldn't have been so heartless that day. It would be extremely difficult to restore their relationship now. It turned out that he still didn't like Huang Fu Liang. What he wanted was the Taishu wine in Su Yu's hands. He thought that if he could win Su Yu over to his disciple's side, he would know where the Taishu wine came from and how it was brewed. Unfortunately, Huang Fu Liang didn't give him the chance. Then I'll take a drop and try it first, Yingfeng Xiao said. The group of elders didn't leave after obtaining the Taishu wine. They consumed it on the spot in the restaurant, using it to temper their rules and observe its effects. What a pure primordial energy! It's a top-grade wine. Several Yin-Yang elders' eyes shone after consuming it. Primordial energy was also divided into different levels of purity. Some primordial energy had existed for too long and had been contaminated by impurities, resulting in insufficient purity. Naturally, its effects would be greatly reduced. However, the primordial energy in the Taishu wine was unbelievably pure, without any impurities. The wine was only sold for 30 million a drop, which was a reasonable price. At least, it was compared to pure yang. "I'll take another 10 drops. 20 drops. 5 drops." After confirming the true effects of the Taishu wine, the Yin-Yang elders tossed in 100 million divine stones. "I'm sorry, there are only 88 drops left. Each person is limited to 10 drops at most." Yingfeng Xiao frowned. "Is this the only pot?" Huang Fu Liang smiled. "The brewing process of the Taishu wine is extremely complicated. We can only brew 3 pots in a month. Today is the opening ceremony, so we're allowed to sell 1 more pot. From now on, the daily limit will be 10 drop." Although many of the Yin-Yang elders were unhappy, they had no choice but to accept it. Pure yang was already limited every day, let alone the more precious Taishu wine. 10 drops it is. When the last drop of pure yang was sold, they had earned 3 billion divine stones. "Manager Huangfu, let's make a deal. 10 drops a day is too little. It's not enough for us at all. Can you ask your boss to think of a way to brew a few more pots?" One of the Yin-Yang elders said what everyone was thinking. Huang Fu Liang pondered. "Rules are rules. Logically speaking, we can't change them. However, our boss has considered your requests, so he said that we'll try to brew 1 more pot." Hearing this, the Yin-Yang elders' expressions relaxed slightly. Fortunately, 1 more pot would be more effective. "However, we won't use money to exchange for that pot. Instead, we'll use 9 Yin pill fragment. 1 drop of Taishu for 1 9 Yin pill fragment." Hearing this, the Yin-Yang elders' expressions changed. 9 Yin pill fragments. That's not worth it, right? Yingfeng Xiao hesitated. Due to the scarcity of 9 Yin pills in the past, the exchange of 9 Yin pills in the Taiji sect depended on the disciples' performance. If they made a contribution, they would have the chance to get a fragment of the 9 Yin pill pattern. When they gathered 100 fragments, they could use the complete pattern to apply for a 9 Yin pill from Elder Tian. What was rare was that the exchanger was not limited to the faction's disciples. If one had the ability to gather 100 fragments from different channels, the Taiji sect would exchange for all. This was also why the Taiji sect was so popular. In some ways, the Taiji sect did not isolate the sect from civilization. It allowed disciples outside the sect to have the opportunity to obtain resources. However, few disciples would exchange the 9 Yin pill fragments for other things. The 9 Yin pill was related to the cultivation of the emperor level. Unless they had no other choice, few people would be willing to do so. Thus, the group of Yin-Yang elders revealed reluctant expressions. Huang Fu Liang said, "We only provide the quota of Taishu. If you want more, you'll have to pay a higher price. Of course, we won't force you. The decision is in the hands of the elders." The elders thought about it and gave up the idea. The 10 drops they had were enough for them to cultivate for a while. They did not need to sacrifice the 9 Yin pill fragment. After watching them leave, Huang Fu Liang closed the door and stretched leisurely. 10 days' supply has been sold. I can rest now. Playing with the dozen bags of divine stones, Huang Fu Liang came to the backyard of the restaurant. Suyu sat in the yard. In front of him was a bottle of wine containing absolute beginning energy. He drank it casually. "Come and have a drink." Huang Fu Liang shook his head with lingering fear. "No. I've already vomited." During the month of building the restaurant, Suyu used Huang Fu Liang as a lab rat. He constantly brewed divine wine containing absolute beginning energy for him to taste. Up until now, he had drunk no less than 100 pots of Taishu. Now, he did not want to drink any more. "This is 30 million drops of Taishu. Are you sure you don't want to drink it?" Suyu said playfully. Huang Fu Liang laughed. "Tell that to the others. You casually brewed 10,000 pots, but only sold 3 pots every month. You kept them in suspense and increased the price. You're really evil. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. The brewing of Taishu was actually very simple. He went to the Taishu Xian Palace and brought out some things containing absolute beginning energy. After grinding them, he blended them into liquid form. In terms of taste, it was naturally not delicious. However, the alpha origin qi inside was real. Therefore, high-level emperors would flock to it and spend tens of millions of divine stones to purchase it. As for selling only 3 pots every month, that was a strategy. Shrewd businessmen understood that rare goods were worth hoarding. The more Taishu there was, the less valuable it was. The less there was, the more valuable it was. Selling 3 pots was to whet their appetite and make them want to buy more. If they wanted to buy more, they would have to exchange for the 9 enpil fragments. This was the purpose of Su Yu's establishment of the wine inquiry. But do you think the Yinyang elders would be willing to exchange for more with the 9 enpil fragments? Huang Fu Liang was still a little unsure. As a former disciple of the Tai Chi faction, he knew very well how precious the 9 enpil fragments were. He had been in the faction for thousands of years and had only obtained 3 9 enpil fragments. It was obvious how difficult it was to obtain the fragment. When they can't buy a limited amount of Taishu, they will naturally exchange for it with the 9 enpil fragments. Su Yu smiled lightly. This was the reason why he only sold 3 pot. The next time someone bought Taishu, it might not just be the 12 of them. After tasting the sweetness of Taishu, how many elders could resist? 10 days later, there were a few unfamiliar faces among the people who came to buy Taishu. Some were the Yinyang elders, while others were the high-level disciples of the Triple Crown Emperors. It seemed like the news of Taishu had spread in a small circle. Each person was limited to 10 drops, but the number of people who bought was slightly higher than the last time, resulting in a bidding war. In the end, it was sold at the price of 31 million per drop. Chapter 1971. They had considered exchanging for it with 9 enpil fragments. However, they still felt that it wasn't worth it, so they gave up and prepared to come back for the 3rd pot of the month. Another 10 days later, Wenjiu's last pot of Great Void was officially on sale. Compared to the last time, there were 20% more people. The auction price this time had soared by 1 million due to the bidding. 30% of the Yinyang elders who bought it for the first time didn't manage to buy it. The worst thing was that the news of Great Void was no longer spread in a small area, but in a large area. Half a year later, the entire Taiji city knew about the newly built Wenjiu. It was an extremely magical restaurant that provided 100 drops of Great Void wine every month. The wine actually contained extremely pure primordial qi. Every 10 days there would be at least tens of thousands of people bidding for it. It was extremely rare for a restaurant to have such a booming business in the entire history of the Taiji civilization. Because there were too many buyers and the Great Void was limited, Wenjiu had no choice but to introduce a lottery system. Everyone at the scene received a number. Through the lottery, the person whose number was chosen would be qualified to buy up to 10 drops of Great Void. As for those who didn't get a number, unfortunately, they would have to come back 10 days later. It was difficult to get a ticket for Great Void now. Because of the lottery system, some crafty people found loopholes. They hired a large number of people to pretend to be buyers. Those who got a number would be sold at a sky-high price of 1 million divine stones. However, once their numbers were on sale, they were all snatched up. If not for Wenjiu keeping a close eye on them, they could have sold for 3 or 4 million divine stones. A year later, the sale of Great Void had become a spectacle in Taiji City. Every time it was on sale, more than 100,000 people would buy it. The entire street, from the ground to the sky, was completely blocked. The original limit of 10 drops per person was reduced to 1 drop per person. Even so, it was still extremely popular, and the supply couldn't meet the demand. Many people who couldn't buy it for a long time complained and asked Wenjiu to punish the speculators. In desperation, Wenjiu introduced a real name authentication rule. Those who got a number had to buy it in person, and the number was only valid for half an hour. What was even more ruthless was that, after seeking the opinions of the majority of buyers, they strongly supported the idea that those who got a number had to swallow it in person and couldn't transfer it or bring it out of Wenzhou. Their hatred for speculators had reached its limit. Only in this way could speculators be completely eliminated. However, the buyers were despairing to find that after the speculators had left, the number of people bidding each time was still no less than 90,000. To buy a drop of taishu, one had to be extremely lucky. Many buyers sighed and shook their heads, no longer holding any hope. Those who desperately wanted it had no choice but to think about the legendary backup Great Void. It was just that the requirement of a 9-yin pill fragment was too painful for them. They gritted their teeth and persevered. It was not worth it to use the 9-yin pill. However, half a year later, those who hesitated were filled with regret. As the reputation of the Great Void spread further and further, even the emperors at the border of civilization had heard of it. The number of people coming to purchase it increased exponentially. Half a year later, the number of participants had skyrocketed from 90,000 to 150 to 60,000. What was even more despairing was that the price of the Great Void continued to rise from the initial price of 30 million god stones to 60 million god stones per drop, and it showed no signs of stopping. Almost no one had any hope of buying the Great Void through the lottery. They were in deep despair. On this day, a yin-yang elder who had been drawing lots for a year and a half without getting a Great Void finally came to them. Moreover, he was none other than Elder Ing Fengxiao. "Lai Yang, can you open the back door and let me buy a drop of Great Void?" Ing Fengxiao braced himself and said, "I've reached a critical juncture in condensing my nomological laws and urgently need a drop. Please do me a favor." He stuffed a heavy bag of god stones into Huang Fuliayang's hands in an attempt to bribe him. Huang Fuliayang was pleased and thought to himself, "Ing Fengxiao, oh Ing Fengxiao, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? If you hadn't been so heartless when I came back, why would you need to beg me?" Huang Fuliayang shook his head and said regretfully, "I'm sorry, but the Great Void is in the hands of the owner. I have no right to decide." In the past year and a half, there were too many people who tried to bribe and curry favor with him, including many yin-yang elders. Now, when he walked in Taiji City, many people who he had to look up to would take the initiative to nod and greet him, which made him feel better. It could be said that shopkeeper Huang Fu, who asked for the wine, was a famous person in Taiji City. He really did not care about Ing Fengxiao's bribe. "Then, can you do it during the lottery?" Ing Fengxiao did not give up. Huang Fuliayang still shook his head. "Every lottery is done by the owner's son. Even if I want to help, I can't." Ing Fengxiao was disappointed, but he did not have much hope. If it was possible to go through the back door, someone would have succeeded long ago. It could only be said that the owner who asked for the wine was too despicable and did not give them any face. However, this was Taiji City, and there was discipline and discipline peak to suppress it. No one dared to do anything unscrupulous, so they could only swallow their anger. "All right, then I'll exchange a 9-yin elixir fragment for a drop of Great Void," Ing Fengxiao said painfully. With the speed at which he obtained a 9-yin elixir fragment, it would take him at least 5 years. 5 years of hard work would go down the drain. Huang Fuliayang finally let out a smile. "I understand Elder Ying's intentions. I will ask the owner for a drop of Great Void." In the back hall, Huang Fuliayang excitedly narrated. After a year and a half of waiting, someone was finally willing to exchange a 9-yin elixir fragment. But Su Yu was calm. "This is just the beginning. Just watch, more and more people will use 9-yin elixir fragments to exchange." Just like that, they obtained the first 9-yin elixir fragment from Ing Fengxiao. After a month, an impatient disciple of a 3-crown divine warrior finally found them and used a 9-yin elixir fragment to exchange. Every 3 to 5 days, there would be people coming to exchange for 9 elixir fragments. Half a year later, 109 elixir fragments were gathered in front of them. Huang Fuliang's eyes were blazing. After 2 years of hard work, I finally got 109 elixir fragments. Sighing at the past 2 years, Huang Fuliang felt that everything was worth it. Su Yu's eyes were filled with anticipation. If you have time, go to the Taiji faction to exchange. Let's see the effects. Congratulations, Brother Su. With the powerful effects of the 9 elixir, I believe that you should be able to quickly recover to the early stages of the Double Crown Divine Warrior. Su Yu smiled. Someone is here. Suddenly, a flickering dot appeared on the stone table in front of Su Yu. The restaurant had many restrictions. If someone were to barge in, they would be able to see it immediately. I'll deal with it. Huang Fuliang went to the front desk and saw a drunk woman in her 30s vomiting on the table. He creased his brows. This friend, do you need any help? Out of politeness, he did not immediately chase the guest away. After all, the restaurant did not have many customers. I want to buy taishu. The woman touched her lips, raised her head, and smiled. The strong smell of alcohol made Huang Fuliang frown. Friend, you have drunk too much. If you want to rest, please help yourself, Huang Fuliang said. Are you looking down on me? The woman's smile disappeared, and she stood up unhappily. Her legs trembled, and she fell into Huang Fuliang's embrace. Huang Fuliang was drunk, but he had a good temper. He helped her sit down and said seriously, Friend, you are drunk. Doing business with you now is like cheating. Let's wait until you are sober and think about it carefully. How about that? As he spoke, he transferred a few shreds of desolate energy into her body to help her get rid of the alcohol. But for some reason, when his desolate energy entered her body, it was like a stone thrown into the sea. You are bullying me. The woman grunted. She slammed her slender palm on the table, and a complete 9 elixir painting appeared. Give me a whole pot of taishu. Huang Fuliang was shocked. A complete 9 elixir painting? Do you want to trade? If not, then forget it. Huang Fuliang's expression changed. I need to ask the owner. After saying this, he hurriedly ran back to the back hall to ask Su Yu for instructions. Knowing this, Su Yu was slightly surprised. To be able to take out a complete 9 elixir painting, she should not be an ordinary person. After thinking for a moment, he said, Let's trade. Since she knows that the 9 elixir painting can be exchanged for taishu, she should not be completely drunk. Alright. With a pot of taishu in his hand, Huang Fuliang came to the front hall. But the drunk woman was nowhere to be seen, leaving only a 9 elixir painting and a line of small words on the table. I have something to do, so I will leave first. Place the taishu 300 miles to the left of the East City Gate. I will come and get it myself. Huang Fuliang was stunned. Wasn't she trusting them too much? She had actually left a whole 9 elixir painting behind. But Huang Fuliang knew that he would not extort a painting from him. There was no need to do so for a worthless taishu. He put away the 9 elixir painting. Suddenly, the auras of 7 or 8 yin-yang elders entered Wenjiu. The 8 yin-yang elders were furious. Huang Fuliang had a slight impression of one of them. It was the yin-yang elder who had come to buy taishu for the first time. Elders, have you offended Wenjiu in any way? Huang Fuliang asked. The yin-yang elder said, No, we are here to capture someone. Did you see a drunk woman come here just now? Huang Fuliang could not help but touch the 9 elixir painting in his chest. I have never seen her. What happened to her? Humph. She stole the 9 elixir paintings of more than 10 yin-yang elders. We were worried that she would come here to exchange for taishu. Since there is no more, we will look elsewhere. She stole the 9 elixir painting, and from more than 10 yin-yang elders? Was that drunk woman so powerful? Who is she? Huang Fuliang asked. Chapter 1972. The Lord of the Discipline Peak, Mo Xiaochai? Huang Fuliang's complexion changed. He had heard of this person's name. She was the worst scum in the Tai Chi sect. She swindled and swindled. Many people in the Tai Chi sect, from the elders to the new disciples, had been cheated by her. There was once an elder Tian who discovered a prodigy who managed to reach the sovereign realm of heaven and earth in less than 100 years. This elder Tian was eager to take in a disciple, so he passed the letter of acceptance to the genius through someone. The genius was overjoyed and excitedly came to report. Then, he met Mo Xiaochai. As a result, Mo Xiaochai lied to him, saying that she was that elder Tian and took him to the discipline peak. Mo Xiaochai had asked this genius to steal the elder's soul fruit tree today, and then she had asked him to swindle the junior sister's undergarment to sell tomorrow. The genius was condemned by his conscience and was ready to stop. Mo Xiaochai confidently told him that this was a test of his courage and boldness. If he didn't have this courage, he wouldn't be worthy to be her disciple. In desperation, the genius braced himself to steal. 3 years later, Elder Tian saw that the disciple hadn't reported for a long time, so he ordered someone to investigate. As a result, when he found the genius, he had become a swindler and swindler. His conduct was exactly the same as Mo Xiaochai's. Moreover, he enjoyed it and openly refused to become Elder Tian's disciple, insisting on following Mo Xiaochai. Elder Tian was so angry that his nose became crooked. He fought with Mo Xiaochai for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, he alerted the sovereign and reluctantly stopped the fight. However, this was just one of the most common things that Mo Xiaochai had done. The most sensational event was the 5-star civilization exchange meeting. The neighboring 5-star civilization sent 10 emissaries. They traveled a long distance to the Taiji sect civilization to discuss the cultural exchange between the two civilizations. The sovereign attached great importance to it and treated it with high standards. At first, everything went very smoothly. Both sides were very satisfied with each other's culture. They were ready to set up a long-distance civilization transmission array between the two civilizations to facilitate the exchange. Who knew that the emissaries' things would be stolen on the night of the negotiation? Except for their underwear, nothing was left. Even the nourishing divine crystal embedded in his underwear was not spared and was taken away by someone. Putting aside the question of what kind of expert could steal all their belongings without anyone noticing, they lived in the Tai Chi sect. How could they lose their belongings under the watchful eyes of the sect master? Enraged, they found their way to Discipline Peak by sensing the things that had been thrown away. They were stunned to find that Mo Xiaochai was openly selling their underwear to the disciples. It was the original underwear of an elder from a certain civilization. Wearing it could increase one's cultivation level and prolong one's life. Instantly, the few messengers vomited blood. When he learned that Zhang Xian was the peak master of the Taiji sect's law peak, he flicked his sleeves and left. The promised cultural exchange came to an abrupt end. There was no follow-up. It could be said that Mo Xiaochai was the shame of the Tai Chi sect. The sect master wanted to slap her to death so that she wouldn't embarrass the Taiji sect. The strange thing was that Mo Xiaochai was still safe and sound. In fact, she was still acting as the peak lord of the law and discipline peak. When Huang Fuliang recalled these legends and sensed the complete 9-yin pill diagram in his bosom, he smiled bitterly. Let's go. I will catch the shame of the Tai Chi faction. This time, no one can stop me. I will beat him to death. My poor 9-yin pill fragment was earned by my disciple after hundreds of years of hard work. I kept it with me for safekeeping to guard against Mo Xiaochai, who is a scum. In the end, she still wants it. A group of yin and yang elders left in anger, searching for Mo Xiaochai angrily. Huang Fuliang clicked his tongue. When he returned to the back hall, he explained the whole story. Hearing this, Su Yu was dumbfounded. Is there such a weirdo in the Tai Chi faction? Even the tree goddess couldn't compare to Mo Xiaochai. Brother Su, what should we do? I don't dare to deliver the Taishu wine alone. Huang Fu Liang said weakly after he found out that the buyer's real identity was Mo Xiaochai. Su Yu suggested seriously, well, apart from underwear and a pot of Taishu wine, I suggest you don't bring anything else. Oh, and don't wear underwear, that's too nice. Huang Fu Liang was speechless. After an internal struggle, Huang Fu Liang clenched his teeth and went to the designated place to exchange for the Taishu wine. Seeing him off, Su Yu smiled lightly and returned to the backyard to enjoy the wine leisurely. As he was drinking, a jade-like hand appeared behind him without warning. It was carrying a big black brick, and it hit the back of Su Yu's head fiercely. Su Yu was knocked unconscious immediately. Hee, do you think my 9-in pill painting is so easy to get? The owner of the jade-like hand appeared. It was none other than Mo Xiaochai, who was supposed to leave. She had done something to the 9-in pill painting, so she could sense Su Yu's specific location with it. Now, she had knocked Su Yu unconscious with a brick, and she had appeared with a smile. In the past 2 years, the owner of the wine shop has earned at least 200 billion divine stones, right? I have been eyeing this fat sheep for a long time. Today I can finally kill him. Mo Xiaochai's eyes were shining. She rubbed her hands as she walked over and searched Su Yu's body. After searching for a long time, she was stunned. Why is there only an ordinary storage ring? Su Yu had nothing on him except the storage ring. Moreover, there was no hidden spatial storage room nearby. With confusion, she probed into the storage ring. There was only a divine stone lying on the ground in the hundreds of square meters space of the storage ring. Suddenly, Mo Xiaochai reacted. She looked at Su Yu, who was lying unconscious on the table. He was obviously playing with her. However, Su Yu was not on the table at the moment. There was only a vague shadow left. Nice brick. At that moment, a speck of dust suddenly appeared behind him. The dust quickly folded into a person, who was holding Mo Xiaochai's black brick in his hand. Before Mo Xiaochai could react, the back of her head was hit by the brick. You! Mo Xiaochai's head was dizzy, and she fell to the ground. Su Yu smiled indifferently. When he had gotten the 9-in pill painting, he had sensed that something was wrong, so he had been on guard. He did not expect that Mo Xiaochai's exchange for Taishu was fake. Unfortunately, his divine stone was not so easy to get. Soon, the Yin-Yang elders, who had been searching everywhere for Mo Xiaochai, heard the news and rushed back. When they found Mo Xiaochai, who had been knocked unconscious, they were very grateful to Su Yu. Su Dongjia, don't worry. Leave this scum to us. We will never let her come out and cause trouble again. This time, we will ask the faction master to imprison her in the Dragon Prison Pass. We will make her face the wall for at least a year. The Dragon Prison Pass was the Tai Chi faction's prison for disciples and elders who had committed crimes. In the past, Mo Xiaochai had stolen all the envoys from the neighboring 5-star civilization. In his fury, the faction master had thrown her inside for 10 years. After that, every time she committed a crime, she was thrown inside. For Mo Xiaochai, going to the Dragon Prison Mountain Pass was a common occurrence. He could rest assured that the Dragon Prison Pass was impregnable. With Mo Xiaochai's ability, she had never escaped after so many years. However, Su Yu was not relieved for long. Not long after the group of Yin-Yang elders left, a Taiji sect disciple hurriedly ran over. Su Dongjia, I am here on Elder Li's orders to remind you to take care of yourself during this period of time. It would be best if you leave a 5-star civilization. Why? Su Yu had a bad feeling. Because Mo Xiaochai ran away. The disciple said. She woke up halfway and ran away after injuring a few elders. No one knows where she is now. Su Yu clicked his tongue. How could she run away when there were more than 10 Yin-Yang elders watching? Suddenly, Su Yu had a bad feeling. Huang Fu Liang. Oh no. He hurriedly rushed to the designated delivery location, at the same time quickly contacting Huang Fu Liang. but all the messages were like stones sinking into the ocean. When he arrived at the delivery location, only Huang Fuliang's torn jacket was left. As expected, beep beep, Su Yu's communication pendant rang, and a line of striking words entered his eyes. Humph! How dare you blackmail me? Your shopkeeper has been kidnapped by me. Bring me 1,000 pots of taishu in exchange. Otherwise, I will kill him. Just like the jacket on the ground, ruthlessly tear him apart. This woman, Su Yu replied without hesitation. Sorry, he is just a shopkeeper. If you want to tear him apart, I will save myself the trouble of paying his salary. Beep beep, stop putting on an act. I have investigated. Your relationship is very good. It is not an ordinary relationship between a shopkeeper and a master. It seemed like she had been eyeing Su Yu, the fat sheep, for a long time, and she had managed to find out many secrets about him. Su Yu calmly replied, That's even better. The property was supposed to be divided equally. Now I can take it all for myself. Beep beep, I don't believe you dare. However, the news did not spread. It was Su Yu who had cut off the communication pendant. He did not listen to the kidnapper's request. In a ruined temple, Mo Xiaochai gnashed her teeth in hatred. Damn it! She threw the communication pendant on the ground and said shamefully, He is a decent master. How could he be so shameless as to blackmail me from behind? Does he have a bottom line? Does he have any morals? Huang Fuliang, whose hands and feet were tied like a dumpling, rolled his eyes. How could a guy who could kidnap people be qualified to talk about bottom line and morals? Mo Xiaochai bit her thumb as she paced back and forth, quickly thinking of a solution. Ever since she witnessed the prosperity of the wine business, Mo Xiaochai had set her eyes on Su Yu. After planning for 2 years, she was finally going to implement her plan. Now, she had lost the 9-yin elixir painting, but she had not gotten a single cent suddenly. Mo Xiaochai noticed Huang Fuliang, who was writhing on the ground. Her eyes lit up. She squatted down and looked at him. She said, Will your master really give you half of the property? This is true. Su Yu had casually said that he would give him half of the property and the 9-yin elixir when the wine business was established. Although he had said it casually, Su Yu was a man of his word. He would definitely get half of it. Are you sure? Mo Xiaochai approached him and asked. Huang Fuliang nodded. I am sure. Why do you ask? Chapter 1973. Oh, marry me. What did you say? Mo Xiaochai replied confidently, I can only get a share of your property if I marry you. What's wrong with that? Huang Fuliang was stunned. Of course it was wrong. That was an important matter of marriage. How could it be treated as child's play? Well, if you want to split the property, why don't you marry my boss? Him? You're too cunning. I can't control myself. You're the stupidest one. If I marry you, I'll be in charge of all the money you earn in the future. Mo Xiaochai snorted. The muscles on Huang Fuliang's cheeks wriggled, and the veins on his forehead bulged. It's hard for me to be happy when you say that. Don't talk nonsense, bow to the heaven and earth. Mo Xiaochai pressed down Huang Fuliang's head and kowtowed to the ground. Wait, bow to my parents. My parents are no longer in the mortal world, so heaven and earth are my parent. Continue to bow to heaven and earth. Wait! Enter the bridal chamber. I've even touched a man before. Mo Xiaochai quickly untied Huang Fuliang's clothes. Huang Fuliang's face was as red as a pig's liver. Wait, give me some time to prepare myself. Tisk. As a man, why are you being so wishy-washy when you're just entering the bridal chamber? Hurry up and get it over with. I want a share of your assets. For the sake of your 100 billion assets, this old lady is ready to throw caution to the wind. Mo Xiaochai casually stripped Huang Fuliang's clothes, and conveniently stripped herself as well. Don't. Huang Fuliang covered his chest with one hand and his crotch with the other. Mo Xiaochai said disdainfully, The sky is high and the earth is high. There's no one around. Even if you shout yourself hoarse, no one will pay attention to you. Come on. Then, he pounced on Huang Fu Liang and executed him on the spot. Huang Fu Liang's shouts of humiliation echoed in the small ancient temple. Su Yu returned to Wenjiu and sat in the back hall. Although he was confident that Mo Xiaochai wouldn't dare to do anything to Huang Fu Liang, he still couldn't help but worry about whether or not he would be mistreated by her. After all, that woman had no bottom line and was capable of doing anything. In the evening, Su Yu suddenly discovered 2 light spots on the stone table. Someone came in. Su Yu's heart was slightly moved. Could it be that Mo Xiaochai had kidnapped Rindu and brought him to the one bar? When he came out to take a look, the corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched. It's true. The only difference was that Mo Xiaochai was holding Huang Fu Liang's arm. Her neck was raised high like a proud peacock. On the other hand, Huang Fu Liang lowered his head with a bitter expression. Disciplined Peak Lord, shouldn't you have a bottom line? You kidnapped my shopkeeper and came to my shop to ask for a ransom? Su Yu laughed. Who would have thought that Mo Xiaochai would be so bold and confident? She raised her head even higher. Hey! Pay attention to your tone and manner of speaking. The person standing in front of you is not a kidnapper, but your partner's wife. Understand? Wife. And children? Even though Su Yu's mental fortitude was extraordinary, he was still stunned. Damn you, why are you in a daze? Hurry up and tell your boss that we've already bowed to heaven and earth and entered the bridal chamber. Huang Fu Liang had a humiliated expression as he said bitterly, Brother Su, there's no more hope in my life. Damn it, are you looking for a beating? Mo Xiaochai pinched him fiercely, then said to Su Yu fiercely, On behalf of my husband, I strongly request that you give us the property that belongs to my husband. Su Yu was astonished. What kind of godly development was this? Why are you in a daze? Quickly give us the money. Mo Xiaochai put her hands on her hips as if she was on equal footing. Su Yu only accepted the fact that they were husband and wife after a long while. He coughed a few times. May I ask, what are your plans after you get the money from me? That's none of your business. Mo Xiaochai waved her hand, urging Su Yu to quickly hand over the money. Unexpectedly, a paper contract was shaken out of her hand. Su Yu quickly scanned through the contents of the contract. It was a divorce letter. Mo Xiaochai and Huang Fuliang's names were already signed on it. Wasn't it obvious that they would divorce Huang Fu Liang after they got the money, then take the money and leave? There was no one else who could swindle so boldly. Compared to this, the tricks of the tree goddess were simply elegant and refreshing. Mo Xiaochai calmly picked up the divorce letter, her face not red, and her heart did not skip a beat. Oh, this is a clerical error. Creak, she tore the divorce letter in front of Su Yu and said, Let's ignore these details. Let's talk about dividing the property. Su Yu was amused. He did not care about the money. He would get the money back after selling it for a few more years. The problem was that Huang Fu Liang had finally found a wife, and it was a pity that she was gone. He did not believe that the dignified master of the disciplined peak would be so stupid as to entrust her marriage to Huang Fu Liang just for 100 billion. Mo Xiaochai must have taken a fancy to some of Huang Fu Liang's merit. Thinking about it, Huang Fu Liang must have moved Mo Xiaochai when she first came to ask about the wine. Then, in order to divide the property, she let nature take its course and got rid of Huang Fu Liang. Dividing the property is easy, but we have to agree that after the division, you and your wife will no longer ask about the wine's shares. The money earned in the future will have nothing to do with you. What do you think? Su Yu said. This. Mo Xiaochai rolled her eyes and agreed. Okay. No problem. It was hard to predict the future, but the 100 billion was right in front of them. Su Yu nodded. Okay, if you insist, then so be it. Unfortunately, I still want to expand the scale of the wine, and now I have to find a new partner. Emo Xiao Chai's eyes suddenly brightened. She hesitated and said, "You said you want to expand the scale of the wine, is that true?" "Of course it is true." Su Yu sighed. "The supply of the Great Void cannot meet the demand, which has led to complaints. So, I plan to open a few more branches of the wine and increase the supply of the Great Void. I estimate that it should be 5 or 6 times the current scale, right?" Emo Xiao Chai's mind was racing. She immediately calculated. The current scale of the wine made a profit of 100 billion divine stones a year. If it was expanded 5 or 6 times, it would be 5 or 600 billion a year. Gosh, that was almost 1% of the annual income of the Tai Chi faction. Okay, you can count the money. After that, we will be even. Su Yu threw out a space storage device. Emo Xiao Chai held it in her palm. After a while, she clenched her teeth and handed the space ring back to Su Yu. "We have changed our minds. The wine is in dire need of people. If we leave like this, it will be too unreasonable. So, we will stay and help you expand more of the wine." Su Yu was amused, but he pretended to be troubled. "I don't think that is a good idea. I can handle it alone. It is okay for you to leave." "How can that be? What kind of person am I, Emo Xiao Chai? Am I the kind of person who forgets friendship and abandons partners?" Emo Xiao Chai patted her chest. Su Yu struggled to make a decision. He reluctantly said, "Okay, then we will continue to cooperate." Emo Xiao Chai's face revealed a happy smile. She asked with concern, "When will you open up new wine and increase the supply of the Great Void?" Su Yu shook his head and said, "We are not in a hurry. My initial plan with Brother Huangfu was to wait until we have enough 9-yin elixirs before we increase the production. Now we need to maintain the current scale and let the disciples and the yin-yang elders voluntarily exchange the fragments of the 9-yin elixirs for the Great Void." Emo Xiao Chai suddenly felt like she had been tricked. She became unhappy and muttered, "The 9-yin elixirs are so rare. It will take at least 100 years for you to accumulate enough 9-yin elixirs." Su Yu had also considered this point. Hence, accumulating the 9-yin elixirs was only a temporary measure. He would think of other ways after he had recovered to the peak of his cultivation base. "It would be good if I had the elixir recipe for the 9-yin elixir," Su Yu said casually. The reason why the 9-yin elixir was rare was because the 9-yin grass was extremely difficult to grow. However, to Su Yu, this was the easiest thing to do. With the existence of the supreme growing soil, it was not difficult to grow the 9-yin grass on a large scale. The most difficult thing was the elixir recipe. As the elixir recipe of the 3 great emperor-level secret medicine of a 5-star civilization, its importance was self-evident. It was certainly the core secret of the Tai Chi faction. The possibility of obtaining the elixir recipe was almost zero. Su Yu did not have any extravagant hopes. "It is hard to say if you want the elixir recipe. However, I have it." Emo Xiao Chai blinked her eyes and threw out a jade scroll with the seal of the 5-crowned divine warrior. The words, 9-yin elixir recipe, were clearly engraved on the jade scroll. Huangfu Liang was shocked. The 3 great elixir recipes were controlled by the faction master himself. Even Elder Tian could not touch them. Why did Emo Xiao Chai have one? Emo Xiao Chai said matter-of-factly, "The faction master gave it to me." Gave? Did she steal it? Huangfu Liang felt that his life was over. With such a disgrace to the Tai Chi faction, what hope did he have in life? Su Yu was also indescribably shocked. Emo Xiao Chai could even steal something that the faction master personally controlled? At the very least, it showed that Emo Xiao Chai was indeed talented in certain areas. He then looked at the jade scroll and stared at the seal that the Tai Chi faction master had personally placed on it. His expression turned serious. "Just this seal alone will take at least 30 years to break." Emo Xiao Chai was stunned. 30 years? There is no need for that, right? As she spoke, she pressed her palm against the jade scroll. A rumbling sound could be heard, as the surface of the jade scroll emitted bursts of green smoke. After which, with a cracking sound, the seal broke, revealing the jade scroll. Su Yu and Huang Fu Liang were stunned at the same time. Breaking the seal of a 5-crown divine being with one hand. What kind of cultivation level was this? Why are you looking at me? I was the one who taught this sealing technique to the faction master. Is it that difficult to break it? Su Yu's heart shook. She personally taught the Tai Chi faction master the sealing technique? It sounded unimaginable. Huang Fu Liang was dumbfounded. What kind of existence could teach the faction master the sealing technique? He could not help but think of some rumors. Many elders and disciples were guessing Mo Xiao Chai's true identity. With the strict self-discipline of the Tai Chi faction, how could they tolerate a little devil like Mo Xiao Chai? Strangely, no matter what mistakes Mo Xiao Chai made, there was no substantial punishment. At most, she would be thrown into the dragon prison pass for a period of time. A very old Yin-Yang elder had unintentionally said that when the previous faction master was in power, Mo Xiao Chai was in the Tai Chi faction. The reign of the previous Tai Chi faction master could be traced back to 3 billion years ago. Below the 5-crown divine being, no living creature could live for more than 3 billion years. If the rumors were true, didn't that mean that Mo Xiao Chai was even older than the current faction master? Chapter 1974. Listen up, Mo Xiao Chai muttered. Even though I stole, I took the recipe for the 9-yin elixir. If it is not necessary, do not spread it. Otherwise, if the old faction master hears about it, we will be in big trouble. Su Yu and Huang Fu Liang were speechless. Did she think they were brainless? How would they dare leak a word about the recipe for the 9-yin elixir? If the people of the Tai Chi faction found out, Mo Xiao Chai might have been imprisoned in the dragon prison for a few years, but the two of them would be annihilated. Even though the Tai Chi faction was righteous, they had their own bottom line. Su Yu picked up the jade scroll and gently pinched it. Dense words gathered to form a 10-zhang-long scroll. The scroll recorded the detailed recipe and cultivation method of the 9-yin elixir. After reading it, Su Yu could not help but gasp. 20,000 supplementary ingredients? 100 refinement procedures? He finally understood why the 9-yin elixir was so rare. Apart from the lack of the main ingredient, the 9-yin herb, the supplementary ingredients and cultivation were difficult. A rough calculation showed that the supplementary ingredients for a 9-yin elixir were no less than 300 million divine stones. Considering the difficulty of cultivation, it was very likely that a successful cultivation of a 9-yin elixir would require no less than 3 billion divine stones. And this was under the condition that there was sufficient 9-yin herb. With the current state of the 9-yin herb in the Tai Chi civilization, the cost of cultivating a 9-yin elixir was no less than 5 billion divine stones. A single 9-yin elixir was enough to drain the life savings of most yin-yang elders. Huang Fu Liang clicked his tongue. This is really not meant for humans to eat. The scarcity of the 9-yin elixir was evident. There should not be too many problems with the supplementary ingredients and cultivation. The only problem is the 9-yin herb. Su Yu asked Mo Xiao Chai. From what I understand, the seeds of the 9-yin herb should not be difficult to find? It seemed that many disciples had seeds of the 9-yin herb in their hands, so that they could plant them on the spot if they found a suspicious nursery. Mo Xiao Chai was not impressed. What kind of seed is that? It is just a fake seed that contains the characteristics of the 9-yin herb. It is used to test whether the nursery soil is suitable for planting the 9-yin herb. The real 9-yin herb seeds are in the hands of the faction master. Of course, Elder Tian also controls a portion. Su Yu looked at her expectantly. How about you steal? Bring some real seeds again? Those seeds are very expensive. If I go and take them again, it will be very easy for him to find me. Mo Xiao Chai rolled her eyes. Then what should he do? What do you want seeds for? If you really have the guts, I suggest you go to the uninhabited area to look for wild Ninine grass. Mo Xiao Chai said, the seeds of the Ninine grass in the Tai Chi sect are the seeds of wild Ninine grass that have been multiplied for several generations. So, the Ninine grass that has been planted will more or less mutate. So, the success rate of refining pills will be greatly reduced. Right now, the Ninine grass seeds that the sect possesses are all new seeds that are more than 3 generations old. The success rate of refining elixirs is generally 100 to 1. Do you have so much money to waste? 100 to 1? Huang Fulieyang's throat went dry. He guessed that it would be 10 to 1. The real ratio was actually 100 to 1. With 200 billion god stones in their hands, they could only refine 7 of them. The success rate of refining purebred wild Ninine grass seeds will increase to 50 to 1. So, if you are ambitious, you should go to the uninhabited area, Mo Xiao Chai suggested seriously. Su Yu was tempted. It seemed like this was the only way. The uninhabited area of a 5-star civilization is very big. Wild Ninine grass only grows in ancient areas. It is easier said than done to find it in a short period of time. Do you have any inside information? Mo Xiao Chai replied in a fluent manner. Recently, a yin and yang elder of the sect issued a heaven-rank mission. That mission is to go to a no-man's land to find out whether or not there are any wild Ninine grasses. This yin and yang elder accidentally found 3 of them in that place several 100,000 years ago. But they haven't grown since then. After 5,000 years, he wants to go there again to take a look. But he is too busy. So, he can only issue a mission and let some powerful disciples go there. Su Yu fell into deep thought. That yin-yang elder had not found any new Ninine grass many times. It would be difficult to find it even if he went there now. But this should be the only clue they had at the moment. So, they could give it a try. Do outsiders like us have the opportunity to participate in the mission? Of course not, but you can follow them. Su Yu nodded. When will they leave? 10 days later? Do you know how many people there are? 3. Can you leave a mark on their bodies so we can follow them secretly? Yes. You are so eager to help us. Are you hoping that we will die in the uninhabited area so that you can take all our wealth for yourself? Yes. Oh, of course not. I am not that kind of person. Mo Xiao Chai immediately corrected herself. Su Yu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had finally figured out that this woman was up to no good. She had sent them to their deaths while she thought of running away with the wealth. Damn it, he could not relax for a moment with this woman. Su Yu said, Lai Yang, you stay behind and watch her. Oh, watch the shop. I will follow them alone. TSK. Mo Xiao Chai snorted. Her plan had failed. I will first go to the Tai Chi faction to exchange for 2 Ninine elixirs, Su Yu said. The Tai Chi faction's redemption hall was set up in the downtown area of Tai Chi City. Every day, an elder Tian would oversee the place. When Su Yu arrived at the redemption hall, he saw many Tai Chi faction disciples walking around. They had come to exchange for the items they needed based on their many years of hard work. One of the items was the window for the 9 elixirs. A few Tai Chi faction disciples were lining up with arrogant expressions. Outsiders looked at them enviously. Isn't that the owner of the wine club, Boss Su? A mocking voice came from behind him. Looking up, it was a young man in front of him who had turned his head to speak. Coincidentally, his face was very familiar. It was Yang Hua, who had been poisoned by Su Yu 2 years ago. Su Yu was expressionless, calmly saying, "Do you have any advice?" Yang Hua's eyes flashed with anger. Even though there was no evidence, her instincts told her that the culprit of the poisoning incident at the Yunxiang house was Su Yu. This could be seen from the collapse of the Yunxiang house and Su Yu's establishment of the wine club. Heaven's justice is clear. Evil will be punished. I hope Mr. Su will remember these words, Yang Hua pointed out. Su Yu laughed. You understand this principle? Oh, it's not too late. I'm talking about you. Yang Hua resisted the urge to take revenge. But her rationality told her that Su Yu, as the owner of the wine club, was no longer the same as before. His status was comparable to that of a true Tai Chi faction disciple. If he was beaten up by Yang Hua and affected the sale of the Great Void, the Yin Yang elders, who were eager to buy the Great Void, would find trouble with Yang Hua. Su Yu laughed. I have a clear conscience. I do not need to worry about evil retribution. You know full well. Yang Hua said hatefully. Hee. Su Yu dismissed it with a laugh. Suddenly, a fragrant wind blew over. A beautiful woman in colorful clothes walked in from outside the redemption hall. She looked like a fairy. Seeing her, the anger on Yang Hua's face disappeared, replaced by calmness. Inu, you've come? It was Fairy Inu. She nodded. Senior, have you not finished exchanging for the fragments of the 9 Yin elixirs? Yang Hua nodded. Soon. Fairy Inu glanced around and suddenly saw Su Yu, who was also queuing. She took the initiative to greet him. Boss Su. Most of the Tai Chi faction disciples knew who Su Yu was now. Oh, hello. Su Yu gave her a perfunctory reply. He did not show much emotion just because she was the most beautiful woman in the Tai Chi faction. Fairy Inu laughed bitterly in her heart. This boss Su is really cold. 2 years ago, he had intended to poison her to death. It was only because Yang Hua had swallowed the 2 drops of pure yang that she had been lucky enough to escape. Now that she had taken the initiative to greet him, he had treated her coldly. I heard that Boss Su prepares an extra pot of Great Void every month to exchange for the fragments of the 9 Yin elixirs. It seems like someone is willing to exchange for it. Fairy Inu did not care too much about what had happened 2 years ago. Instead, she was very interested in Su Yu's Great Void. The Great Void wine had been rumored to be miraculous. However, with her current wealth, she did not have the chance to drink it. Even if she did, she would shrink back at the thought of the crowds of people who would come to buy the Great Void every time it was sold. Yes, I was lucky enough to exchange for it with some generous elders, Su Yu said calmly. Yang Hua, who was queuing up in front, was unhappy when he saw Fairy Inu and Su Yu chatting. He interrupted. Haha, Boss Su, after waiting for 2 years, someone is finally willing to give you a fragment of the 9 Yin elixir? It's not easy. Su Yu looked at him indifferently, not saying much. Fairy Inu frowned slightly. Senior, how can you say that? It's a fair exchange. How is it charity? Yang Hua was even more unhappy that Inu was speaking up for Su Yu. Boss Su, I estimate that you might be able to gather 109 Yin elixir diagrams if you wait patiently for another 200 to 300 years. I suggest that you maintain a good attitude and avoid arrogance and rashness. Only then will you be able to successfully obtain one. Yang Hua put on a fake smile. It was now his turn to exchange. He took out his identity token and handed it to the person in charge at the counter. Exchange for all the fragments of the 9 Yin elixir. The person in charge gently swept his identity token across a stone slab. A series of numbers appeared on the slab. 32,000 merit points can be exchanged for 3 fragments of the 9 Yin elixir. You still have 2,000 merit points left. The voice of the person in charge was not loud, but it could be heard clearly in the exchange point. 3 fragments of the 9 Yin elixir. I'm so envious. What's there to be envious about? Don't you see who that person is? He is Elder Yingfeng Zhao's favorite disciple, Yang Hua, one of the 10 great mission maniacs. 2 years ago, he exchanged for 3 fragments of the 9 Yin elixir. Now, 2 years later, he has obtained 2 fragments. At this rate, he will be able to exchange for a 9 Yin elixir in less than 100 years. So it's him. This person's reputation is like thunder in my ears. Yang Hua's lips curled into a proud smile. Relying on the powerful cultivation base of a later stage 3 crown divine warrior, Yang Hua took on missions crazily to obtain merit points from the Tai Chi faction. Chapter 1975. Having successfully obtained 3 fragments of the 9-yin elixir, Yang Hua let out a proud laugh. She said to Fairy Inu, junior sister Inu, let's go and discuss the heaven-level mission. Fairy Inu nodded at Su Yu. Boss Su, don't be discouraged. I believe there will be more and more people exchanging for fragments of the 9-yin elixir. Thank you for your kind words, Su Yu said. Yang Hua did not care, her lips curling. Only a fool would exchange for fragments of the 9-yin elixir. It was Su Yu's turn at the window. The person in charge saw that Su Yu was not wearing the Tai Chi faction's attire, and was slightly annoyed. Hurry up, what do you want? Su Yu did not say a word. He placed the 2 complete 9-yin elixir diagrams on the windowsill. 2. The person in charge was stunned. Alright, wait a moment. I will ask Elder Tian. He will personally keep the 9-yin elixirs. I have no right to distribute them. Her voice was also noticed by the Tai Chi faction disciples. Yang Hua and Fairy Inu, who had just reached the door, also heard it. They looked back in shock. Senior brother, is Boss Su here to exchange for the 9-yin elixir? Fairy Inu asked in disbelief. Wen Jiu had only been in business for 2 years, yet he had managed to gather 100 fragments? Isn't this a little too unbelievable? Yang Hua was stunned. He must be exchanging for something else, not the 9-yin elixir. Even though he said that, he did not leave. He stared at the window. After a short while, a middle-aged man wearing a scholar's robe walked over with big strides. He examined Su Yu's picture carefully. After which, he looked at Su Yu with a bit of surprise. He then took out 2 sealed jade boxes from his storage ring without saying a word. 2 Jiuyin elixirs. 2. He managed to get 2 complete 9-yin elixirs in just 2 years? This is too unfair. We worked hard for 100 years to exchange for 1, but he managed to exchange for 2 in just 2 years. It is indeed unfair. If this continues, all the 9-yin elixirs will be exchanged for by Wen Jiu. What will happen to us disciples? Hearing this, the middle-aged man thought for a moment. Wen Jiu's appearance was too shocking, breaking the balance. If Wen Jiu were to exchange for the 9-yin elixirs at such a fast speed, the Tai Chi faction's painstaking production of 9-yin elixirs would benefit outsiders. Mr. Su, right? The Confucian-robed middle-aged man smiled. These 2 9-yin pills are for you to exchange for now. As for the future, I will need to ask the sect master to make a decision. I hope you can understand. Wasn't it just a temporary change in the rules to prevent outsiders from exchanging for the 9-yin pill? It seemed that such a fast accumulation speed had frightened the Taiji sect. I understand. Su Yu did not complain. The Tai Chi faction was already being generous by allowing outsiders to exchange for 2 fragments. Now, they had even informed Su Yu in advance, instead of waiting for him to exchange for the fragments that he had painstakingly accumulated. On the whole, the Taiji sect had not done anything wrong. Fortunately, he did not place all his hopes on exchanging from the Tai Chi sect. Instead, he prepared to refine it himself. It seemed that finding the seeds of the wild 9-yin grass was an urgent matter. After obtaining the 2 9-yin elixirs, Su Yu left the Redemption Palace without looking around. Yang Hua's entire body stiffened. The 3 fragments of the 9-yin pill, which she was so proud of, now felt like a joke. Perhaps he would have to work hard for 200 years to make up for the other party's 2 years of effortless waiting. Fairy Inu sighed. Mr. Su was indeed an extraordinary man. Compared to him, they were not on the same level. Senior, don't be discouraged. Didn't Elder Tian already say that Mr. Su might not be able to exchange for the 9-yin elixirs? Fairy Inu comforted him. Hearing this, Yang Hua became excited. That's right. Su Yu had only been in the limelight for a short while. How could he compare to true Tai Chi faction disciples like them? They would only be able to obtain the 9-yin elixirs a few hundred years later. But Su Yu could forget about obtaining any more 9 elixirs after using them. Thinking this way, Yang Hua felt better. She let out a disdainful smile. Geniuses like me and merchants like him, who are not part of the faction, are people from 2 different worlds. The gap between us will only grow larger, to the point where he will have to look up to us. One was a late-stage martial artist with 3 crowns, while the other was a late-stage martial artist with a single crown. The gap between them could not be erased. Su Yu, who had returned to the wine shop, gave a 9 elixir to Huang Fu Liang. This, isn't it inappropriate? I did not help much. I was only an assistant. Huang Fu Liang licked his lips, rejecting the gift rationally. Most of the credit belonged to Su Yu. He did not have the right to share the 9 elixir. You can find more 9 elixirs, but it is hard to find trustworthy people. Su Yu stuffed a 9 elixir into Huang Fu Liang's hand. He then held a 9 elixir and entered the secret chamber. He opened his mouth and swallowed it. The overbearing medicinal power wreaked havoc in his body. Not long after, the medicinal power gathered in his inner world. It quickly replenished his severely depleted primordial energy. His aura was slowly recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire process lasted for 8 or 9 days. He was finally at the early stage of the Double Crown Martial Artist. I have finally returned to the Double Crown Martial Artist level. Su Yu sighed. With the overbearing power of the 9 elixir, his cultivation level would return to the late stage of the Double Crown Martial Artist level with another 6 9 elixirs. Calculating the time, it was almost time for the group of mission takers to set off. Su Yu left the secret chamber and went to the back hall. He saw Huang Fu Liang kneeling on the washboard. Mo Xiaochai was in front of him. "You bastard, I entrusted my life to you. You didn't even think of leaving the 9 elixir for me." Huang Fu Liang was bitter. "This 9 elixir was given to me by the master. How could I give it to you?" "Then why didn't you get rid of the master?" "You!" Mo Xiaochai instigated. Su Yu's face darkened. "Myself what?" Mo Xiaochai's face didn't even blush as she corrected herself. "What I mean is, my husband should let the master rest, and take the initiative to share the master's worries and difficulties. Isn't that right, my husband?" Being stared at by Mo Xiaochai's dangerous eyes, Huang Fu Liang could do nothing but nod. He revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. "Yes, that is what my wife meant." Su Yu was too lazy to argue with Mo Xiaochai. He extended his hand. "What do you want?" Mo Xiaochai was startled. "I am already your woman. A good woman does not marry again. Don't have any improper thoughts." Su Yu's face darkened. "You have ruined the word good woman. Give it to me. Didn't you want to keep my property to yourself? Now I will give you a chance." Mo Xiaochai's eyes shone. "Why didn't you say so earlier? I have already prepared it." She took out a palm-sized compass. There were 3 light spots on the compass, which represented the specific positions of the 3 people. It seemed like she had indeed located the 3 people who had accepted the mission. There is a detailed description of the mission here. You can read it on the way. Mo Xiaochai quickly stuffed a booklet into Su Yu's hands. She stared at Su Yu quietly. She meant to tell him to leave quickly and not to come back. Su Yu was amused and annoyed at the same time. He noticed that the 3 light spots on the compass had already left the Tai Chi city. So, he set off immediately. Following closely behind them, Su Yu used the ancient transportation portal 3 times in a row. He crossed a small part of the Tai Chi civilization and arrived at the Tai Chi faction's terrifying Sea of Death. The Sea of Death was a boundless expanse of yellow sand. The yellow sand was extremely heavy. Each grain weighed more than 100 pounds. A handful of it weighed no less than 10,000 pounds. It was conceivable that wherever the yellow sand passed, it would crush all the spiritual plants. If Su Yu had not read the booklet in advance, he would have suspected that he had followed the wrong place. However, the booklet clearly stated that the place was in the southern corner of the Sea of Death. There was an underground world there that had been buried since ancient times. It had preserved its ancient style and ecological environment. That was why he had been lucky enough to discover 3/9 grass there. Unfortunately, no 9 grass had appeared there even after he had gone there several times. Apart from that, there was another detail in the mission's description. The Young Elder had mentioned that when he had gone there to investigate, he had discovered a trace of someone who had been there. The mission reminded them not to be careless. Half a year later, the group of people traversed the desert and finally arrived at an oasis. Fairy Inu wiped the sweat off her face. Her eyes were filled with joy. We have finally arrived at the entrance to the underground world. The lake in front of them was the entrance to the underground world. Elder Li Feng is really an extraordinary person. He was able to discover such a hidden entrance to the underground world in such a vast desert, Fairy Inu exclaimed. Yang Hua sighed. Yes, if it were us, even if we came across this oasis, we probably wouldn't think of exploring the underground world. The third disciple was Elder Li Feng's chief disciple, Qin Huai. His cultivation was also at the later stage of the three-crown martial artist realm. He said, "Both of you are flattering me. My master accidentally entered the bottom of the lake and discovered the hidden secret." "I see," Fairy Inu said. "Let's not waste any more time. Let's go down and take a look." The three of them quickly jumped into the lake. Indeed, there was an isolated ancient formation at the bottom of the lake. The ancient formation isolated the water of the lake from the outside world. Below it was an extremely dark and gloomy underground world. Gusts of chilly wind blew past, sending shivers down their spines. "Let's go." Qin Huai used a simple divine technique to pass through the ancient formation and enter the underground world. Several hours later, a mass of yin and yang energy suddenly appeared above the lake. Su Yu's figure appeared. He looked down at the oasis from above, his eyes filled with curiosity. For some reason, the seemingly peaceful oasis gave him an ominous feeling. He instinctively felt uncomfortable. After muttering to himself for a moment, he did not enter the lake hastily. Instead, he folded the space and turned into a speck of dust floating in the air. Their mission was also to obtain the 9 grass. Since that was the case, he would just wait here. Unexpectedly, not long after he hid, a demonic wind blew across the surface of the lake, causing slight ripples on the surface. A green-robed elder with long eyebrows appeared without warning. Su Yu, who was defenseless, felt his heart beat wildly. He almost leaked his breath. He stared at the green-robed elder with long eyebrows. Based on his clothing, he should be the Yin-Yang elder of the Tai Chi faction. His cultivation level should be about the same as the Sword Alliance Master, at the early stage of the four-crown martial artist realm. At that moment, the green-robed elder stared at the lake and laughed hoarsely. I can reap another harvest." Then, he floated into the lake. In the air, Su Yu's mind was racing. What was up with the Yin-Yang elder of the Tai Chi faction? What was he up to, acting so sneakily? Chapter 1976. When he entered the underground world, he could no longer see the green-robed Yin-Yang elder. He could only rely on the compass to confirm that the three disciples on the mission were quite far away, and their lives were not in danger. Carefully observing the dark underground world, the Yin energy here was extremely dense. It was an environment that the 9 grass liked, and the chances of it appearing were not low. Su Yu used his transparent eyes to scan the area, and he clearly saw many odd-looking ancient beasts hiding in the darkness, hunting for prey. It is indeed a rather complete ancient landscape, with a very complete ecosystem, Su Yu thought to himself. Even though their cultivation levels were rather weak, there should be a few dangerous beasts at the top of the food chain. Su Yu was cautious, moving forward at a moderate pace. A few days later, he had already entered the depths of the underground world. There were still overlord-level ancient beasts here, and occasionally, there were even divine warriors of heaven and earth revealing their auras. Suyu witnessed with his own eyes a bat at the early stage of the single crown king realm suddenly appear and capture a moth at the peak of the overlord realm. What was even more terrifying was that he noticed that there was not just one bat, but a whole group of them, hiding in the darkness, ready to attack at any time. With a rough count, there were no less than 10,000 of them. Suyu could not help but feel his scalp go numb. He concealed his aura to avoid being discovered. They have already stopped there for 2 days. Could they have met with some trouble? Suyu stared at the compass, deep in thought. The one he was most afraid of was the green-robed elder. He had planned to wait and snatch one from them, but the appearance of this person had forced Suyu to personally investigate. Not long after, Suyu caught up with them. The three of them were holding their breaths, hiding in a three-zhang deep quagmire, concealing all their auras. Suyu looked around, a hint of joy on his face. In the center of the soft quagmire, there were 3 stalks of red, 3-foot-long grass with 9 segments. They emitted a cold aura, attracting the attention of the beasts in the underground world. Mature 9-een grass. Suyu was delighted. As expected. But why were the 3 disciples hiding? Could it be that they had discovered an unknown danger? Squeak! At this moment, a sharp screech pierced through the darkness. An incomparably huge bat flew past and snatched away a moth that was flying towards the 9-een grass with its mouth. It was a local ancient bat. No, not just one, but a whole group. They hovered above the quagmire, flying in a crisscross pattern. Any beast that got close to the 9-een grass would be preyed upon. Using the 9-een grass to hunt? Suyu finally understood why his 3 disciples did not make any move. They had even broken into the hunting area of the single-crowned emperor bat. If he showed himself rashly, he would immediately be surrounded and attacked by thousands of bats. With their strength, they would not be able to resist and would be besieged to death. At this moment, they moved. It seemed like they had thought of a way. The 3 of them, who were covered in mud, each held a talisman in their hands, emitting a weak masculine aura. The bats immediately became agitated, but since they were born with a penchant for een, they were extremely disgusted by the masculine aura emitted from their bodies, so they did not attack because of that. Suyu's eyes flickered as he turned into dust and landed on one of them. The other party didn't notice it at all. Instead, he sent a telepathic message to Zhang Xian. It seems like the method we're trying this time is pretty good. In fact, they had tried several times, but the result was that they were surrounded by the bats. In the end, he spent 2 days refining some yang-type talismans that were unique to the Tai Chi sect. As expected, they were effective. Without the attacks of the bats, the 3 of them walked to the 9-een grass as if they were walking on flat ground. Haha, Inu, Qin Huai, looks like our luck is not bad. We have successfully found the 9-een grass that elderly Feng failed to find many times. The person speaking was none other than Yang Hua. Among the other 2, the only woman was Fairy Inu. Suyu was secretly surprised. It was them. If that was the case, there would be no psychological pressure to snatch Yang Hua's 9-een grass. Qin Huai nodded. Pluck it immediately, 1 for each person. His eyes were burning with passion. With the preciousness of the 9-een grass, handing it over to the faction would allow them to immediately obtain a fragment of the 9-een elixir. The reward for this mission was 30,000 merit points. With 10,000 merit points per person, they could exchange it for a fragment of the 9-een elixir. In just 1 year, they could obtain 2 fragments. This speed of collection was shocking. Let me do it. Yang Hua volunteered. Using a special jade shovel, she carefully shoveled the roots of the 9-een grass. The 9-een grass was quite fragile. Once it left the soil, it could not live for more than 3 days. Hence, she had to shovel the soil and roots together. Clink, however, who would have thought that when the jade shovel went down, it was as if it had hit a hard object in a quagmire. Yang Hua tried again, but still could not dig up the 9 grass. Could it be a rock under the 9 grass? Yang Hua muttered to himself. His soul scanned the area under the 9 grass, but there was nothing special. He squatted down and placed his hands on the quagmire, slowly releasing his desolate energy. With the 9 grass as the center, the quagmire split into a 10-foot wide crack. This revealed the situation under the 9 grass. The scene in front of them caused the hearts of the three of them to skip a beat. Under the quagmire, there was actually a 30 feet tall ancient human standing erect. He was tall and had a ferocious aura. 2 sharp fangs protruded from the sides of his lips, and his body was covered in 3-inch bristles. At this moment, his left hand was raised high, holding 3 9 grass. Seeing this scene, the three of them had an ominous feeling. However, seeing that the ancient human was already dead and had no aura, they barely managed to calm themselves down. "Take it off and leave immediately," Qin Huai said. He had never heard his master say that there was an ancient human here. Yang Hua nodded and did not hold back anymore. She slashed at the ancient human's arm, planning to take the 9 grass along with his arm. Clank, however, just as the sword slashed down, the three of them felt their hearts skip a beat. The ancient human, who had no aura, suddenly opened his blood-red eyes. The blood-red eyes revealed a human-like cruelty and cruelty. The ancient human, who had no aura, suddenly exploded with the terrifying aura of a peak 3-crown emperor. Not good. He's alive. This is the ancient human's trap. Inu Fairy instantly understood. Her face turned pale and she quickly retreated. Qin Huai's reaction was also extremely fast, and he quickly flew away. Only Yang Hua was too close. If she retreated, she would expose her back to the ancient human. She could only grit her teeth and advance with all her strength. However, the ancient human's free right hand pulled out a stone rod from his waist and suddenly counterattacked. Not only did Yang Hua's sword not slash down, but it was also repelled by the stone rod. Yang Hua himself suffered from a boundless force, and he tasted blood in his throat. He was extremely shocked. The opponent had used only his body to resist his full force attack. The stone rod's momentum did not decrease, and it smashed toward Yang Hua's head. Yang Hua's heart shrank. He grabbed with his hand, and a nomological chain appeared. He rushed out at the critical moment. Ding, however, the power of the stone rod was still beyond imagination. Could even resist the laws between the real and the fake. The nomological chain was repelled, and the momentum of the stone rod weakened. Before Yang Hua had a chance to escape, the ancient human suddenly opened his mouth and roared. The guttural sound contained an extremely powerful soul attack. Yang Hua's body stiffened, and he could not move. Then, a gigantic fist came crashing down. Yang Hua screamed as he was punched into the ground. His entire body cracked, a sign that he was about to collapse. Coupled with the damage to his soul, Yang Hua's eyes rolled back and he fainted. The ancient human picked him up and tied him to his belt, as if he was treating him like prey. Then, he grinned and looked at the escaping Qin Huai and Fairy Inu. Dong, 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 he ran with large strides. The ancient human only had a physique, but his running speed was so fast that the space around him trembled. Fairy Inu was the first to be caught. He swung the rod at her, and she could not resist at all. She was knocked out and tied to the ancient human's belt. Qin Huai's soul almost left his body. He used all his skills to escape, even using the Sec's instant teleportation talisman. However, he was still no match for the ancient human. After running for several hours, he used up all his talismans and was caught by the ancient human. The ancient human roared, and Qin Huai's soul suffered a strong impact. Then, he could not move, and the ancient human knocked him out and tied him to the belt. Only then did the ancient human happily carry the stone rod and go deeper into the underground world. As for the 3 9 grass in the quagmire, he did not even look at them. The ancient human came to a cliff. There were many giant bat skeletons piled up there, like a mountain. However, this was already a dead end. It was the end of the underground world, and there was no way out. The ancient human held the stone rod and smashed it hard at a spot on the cliff. Then, a strange scene appeared. The fluctuation of an ancient formation appeared on the cliff, and a crack that was big enough for one person to pass through appeared. The ancient human went in with ease. It turned out that there was another world within the cliff. What he saw was an ancient forest that was so thick that it was suffocating. The ancient forest was pitch black, and one could not see the end of it. It gave people a deep sense of oppression. At the edge of the forest, there were no less than 10,000 ancient humans active. They had built houses there, and kept many beasts as livestock. It was a tribe. Suyu, who had turned into dust, stared at the scene in surprise. This must be a hidden world in the underground world, right? The tribe of 10,000 ancient humans before him made Suyu's scalp go numb. There were double crown emperors among the immature ancient humans, and there were triple crown emperors among the mature ancient humans. If so many ancient humans rushed out of the underground world, Suyu did not dare to imagine the scene. Perhaps the whole five-star civilization would become their hunting ground. What surprised Suyu even more was that there was a long, pitch-black river flowing at the edge of the forest. The river was filled with patches of dark red aquatic plants. There were so many of them that it was impossible to count their number. Those were not ordinary things. They were the nine-een grass, which was hard to find in the outside world. Chapter 1977. Where is this place? Suyu was secretly surprised. He held his breath, clinging to Yang Hua's shoulder without moving, waiting for a chance to pick the nine-een grass. When the ancient man returned to the tribe, 7 or 8 other ancient men immediately ran over, speaking in a language that even Suyu could not understand. He guessed that they were talking about the 3 prey. The few of them returned to a huge, simple wooden house. It was backed by a sinister river, and there was a huge hanging pot in front of the house. There were millions of bat skeletons piled up around the pot. The ancient man was at the top of the food chain in this underground world. The ancient man had intended to hunt for bats, but he had accidentally stumbled upon 3 humans. Hence, he had become his fresh prey. Soon, a fierce-looking ancient man lit a fire and heated up the soup in the hanging pot. At the same time, the ancient man brought Yang Hua and the other 2 to the stone slab beside the river. He first dragged Qin Huai out and pressed him against the stone slab. Qin Huai was still unconscious, unaware that he was in great danger. The ancient man grabbed Qin Huai's head with his giant hand and pulled forcefully, tearing Qin Huai's head off. Then, he stomped on the ground with both feet, squeezing out all of Qin Huai's internal organs. The way he handled it was like how a human handled a wild rabbit. The intense stimulation finally woke Qin Huai's soul, and he escaped his shell in panic. But his soul was only halfway out when it was discovered by the ancient man. With a loud roar, Qin Huai's soul fainted and was stuffed back into his shell. After he was done, he hung Qin Huai upside down to dry. The pungent smell of blood caused Yang Hua and Fairy Inu to slowly wake up. What entered their eyes was a bloody scene, causing them to shiver from the soles of their feet and their guts to be torn apart. The ancient man dragged Yang Hua to the stone slab and pressed his giant hand against Yang Hua's head. He was about to use the same trick to tear off Yang Hua's head. Yang Hua was terrified. She had never been so terrified before. A strong will to live erupted in her desperate moment. She roared, "I'll fight you to the death." Her soul left her shell in an instant. Her soul was hugging a bright crystal. The crystal contained extremely pure energy. Suyu could not help but be secretly shocked. That was an extremely rare connate essence crystal in the great beginning realm. Unlike other minerals, it was produced in spiritual lands. The innate origin crystal was only born in the souls of a minority of living beings. It would absorb the soul power of others to grow stronger, and at the same time, it would replenish the magical power of others' bodies, allowing them to have a clear body and extraordinary comprehensive ability. Their cultivation speed would be as fast as lightning, far surpassing their peers. The innate origin crystal in front of him only had 3 colors, so it should be a lower-grade innate origin crystal. However, this was also a great fortune that ordinary people could not be envious of. If nothing unexpected happened, he would at least be able to cultivate to the level of a 4-crown emperor. If his luck was good, he could even become a 5-crown emperor. His potential was limitless. No wonder he was able to train to the late stage of the 3-crown martial emperor in just a few hundred years, Su Yu thought. At this moment, Yang Hua roared and used his soul to activate the innate origin crystal. All of a sudden, the entire innate origin crystal started burning, turning into a ball of intense flames that enveloped his soul, turning him into a giant flaming man. The ancient man was caught off guard. With a loud roar, he launched a soul attack. However, his attack was no longer effective, as it was blocked by the weak flames on the surface of the innate origin crystal. Die! Yang Hua roared angrily. His giant flaming body pounced forward, brazenly clashing with the ancient man. The ancient man was ferocious. He picked up the stone rod at his waist and counterattacked. Having ignited the innate origin crystal, Yang Hua's battle power rose by several levels, and he sent the stone rod flying with a single punch. The ancient man's eyes revealed a shred of fear. He agilely retreated, shouting continuously. A few ancient men immediately ran out from the wooden house behind him. They roared fiercely, each holding a stone axe and a stone knife as they charged toward Yang Hua aggressively. Yang Hua chased for a moment. Seeing that the other party had the advantage in numbers, he clenched his teeth and returned to his side. He picked up his body and immediately fled into the depths of the forest. He had been in a state of unconsciousness and had no idea where he had come from. He could not find the exit, so he could only flee into the vast forest. "Senior brother, take me with you." At this moment, Fairy Yin begged for help. She was still tied to the ancient man's waist, unable to break free. Yang Hua hesitated for a moment and said, "Junior sister, please wait for a moment. I will return to the faction to ask for help." By the time he asked for help, Fairy Yin had already been devoured. Yang Hua had given up on helping her. Fairy Yin's pretty face was pale, and her lips were tightly pursed. In fact, her master and Yang Hua's master had already discussed their marriage in secret. Although Fairy Yin did not like Yang Hua, she did not hate him. Thus, she reluctantly agreed. After this mission, their masters would announce it to the public. However, Yang Hua was completely unaware of this. Seeing that Yang Hua did not help her, Fairy Yin was extremely disappointed. Based on Yang Hua's current ruthless behavior, even if he knew that they were about to get married, he would not help her. Fairy Yin's pretty eyes reflected Yang Hua's rapidly departing figure. She closed her eyes in despair. The ancient man also roared. Yang Hua's strength had increased tremendously, and his speed was also extremely fast. They actually could not catch up with him. Seeing that Yang Hua was about to escape into the vast black forest, the ancient man was furious. However, at this moment, an unexpected scene occurred. Invisible space walls suddenly appeared around Yang Hua, one layer after another. Yang Hua had no choice but to slow down and break through the walls first. Seeing this, the ancient man roared excitedly. 5 adult ancient men and 2 underage ancient men chased after Yang Hua in surprise. Yang Hua roared angrily. What was going on? Where did these space walls come from? But he had no choice but to choose another direction. He fought back against the ancient men who were hot on his heels as he fled. Taking advantage of the chaos, a speck of dust suddenly floated onto the riverbank. Su Yu's original body quickly appeared. The moment he appeared, a jade shovel flew out of his palm without hesitation. It spun rapidly in the air and sliced through the river. Many nine grass, along with their roots, were thrown into the air along with the river mud. Suyu held a space storage artifact in his hand and quickly collected them. In just 3 breaths' time, he had successfully collected more than 109 grass. Many of the 9 grass had matured, and many seeds could be seen with the naked eye. That was enough. After obtaining the 9 grass, Suyu immediately retreated. The direction he was running in was the cliff. Roar! Suddenly, the ancient man who had been injured by Yang Hua did not chase after Yang Hua because he was injured. Instead, he stayed behind to look after the tribe. Suddenly seeing Suyu, he was stunned for a moment. Then he let out an excited roar, picked up the stone rod and chased after Suyu. Suyu's cold eyes swept back. He was not afraid, the Azura sword in his hand. 7th stroke of the demonic sword technique, bury the heavens. With a swing of the sword, the whole world seemed to be collapsing. Large pieces of heaven and earth came crashing down. This was an environment, but it was extremely real. The ancient man's eyes were filled with fear. He subconsciously used the stone rod to block the falling heaven and earth. But the heaven and earth continued to crumble, piece after piece. Piece after piece was smashed. The ancient man was crushed by a piece of heaven and earth. His whole body was smashed and he fell to the ground. Fairy Inu was shocked. Is this really the sky collapsing? Then, the strange phenomenon of the heaven collapsing suddenly disappeared, and everything returned to its previous calm. The ancient man was still in the position of waving the stone rod. There were no external injuries on his body. However, his eyes were dull and his breath was gone. It was a sign that his soul had been annihilated. Suyu put away his sword indifferently. Fairy Inu gasped. The fierce ancient man who knocked the 3 of them out and brought them back had his soul destroyed by a sword? What kind of swordsmanship was that? It was terrifying. When Suyu was about to leave, Fairy Inu suddenly said, "Wait, Senior, save me." At this moment, Suyu's face was covered, so she could not see his identity at all. "Senior? I don't think so. I met him not long ago in the Redemption Hall." Suyu touched his nose, walked over, and cut off Fairy Inu's restraint with his sword. Fairy Inu was very grateful that she had been saved from death. Seeing more and more ancient men who saw this scene, she said, "Let's go." She turned around and ran towards the dark forest. Suyu said, "Do you know the exit?" Fairy Inu was stunned. "Is it not there?" Suyu did not speak, but ran towards the cliff. Fairy Inu looked at Yang Hua, who had escaped into the forest, and then looked at Suyu. Then, she followed Suyu without hesitation, and ran towards the cliff. "Senior, your voice sounds familiar," Fairy Inu, who had caught up with Suyu, said as she recalled Suyu's words. After a while, Fairy Inu's pretty face changed abruptly, and she cried out in surprise, "You are the boss Su who asked about the wine." Suyu did not try to hide it. Otherwise, people would not have recognized his voice. "It's me." Suyu wiped his hand and the cover on his face disappeared. "My God! It's really you! But your swordsmanship—" Fairy Inu's voice stopped abruptly, and she did not ask any more questions. It was not a wise idea to ask him about his background. However, the shock in her heart did not disappear for a long time. Apparently, Suyu's cultivation was only at the late stage of the single crown martial artist. Wait. Fairy Inu suddenly realized that Suyu was now at the early stage of the double crown martial artist. She was shocked again. The last time she met him at the Redemption Hall, his cultivation was only at the late stage of the single crown martial artist. How could his cultivation increase so rapidly? Even if he consumed 2 9 elixirs in a row, it was impossible for him to break through a whole level. Suddenly, she felt that Suyu was too mysterious. Not only did he appear in a mysterious way, but he also used all kinds of mysterious means. While she was still in shock, they came to the cliff. Suyu imitated the ancient person, and his arms were covered with dragon scales. Then, he struck the cliff. As expected, the ancient town was touched and a crack appeared. Fairy Inu was overjoyed. It turned out that the exit was here. Looking back at Yang Hua, who had disappeared, she wanted to warn him, but she could not do anything. At this time, a group of ancient people had caught up with them. There were more than 10 of them, and they looked fierce and fierce. They were especially angry that Su Yu had killed their companions. They were quite close to each other, and if he ignored them now, they would soon attack him. When Su Yu was about to kill 1 or 2 more of them to intimidate them, suddenly, a whirlwind rushed out of the crack, and went straight for the ancient people who were rushing over. A bloody storm ensued, and all 10 ancient people were turned into blood mists at the same time. Chapter 1978. Fairy Yin was taken aback at first, but she soon revealed a relaxed and pleasantly surprised expression. Disciple Yin greets Elder Li Feng. Su Yu was surprised. This sneaky green-robed elder was Li Feng, the one who issued the mission? Why did he come here? Li Feng turned around and revealed a relieved expression. Fortunately, I came in time. It's good that you're fine. Where are my disciple and Yang Hua? Yin Yu's face was filled with sorrow as she said, Elder Li, senior martial brother Qin Huai was killed by an ancient person, and only his soul is left. Senior martial brother Yang Hua was chased by an ancient person into the dark forest, and his whereabouts are unknown. Li Feng sighed when he heard this. After I issued the mission, I obtained a piece of news by chance and realized that all of you had fallen into danger, so I immediately rushed over. Now it seems like I was a step too late. Only the soul of my disciple remains. Yin Yu was similarly in grief. Senior brother Qin Huai's personality wasn't bad, and his cultivation talent was even more exceptional. He had high hopes of breaking through to become a 4-crown emperor, but she never expected to encounter this type of thing. At most, he could only save his soul, but it was impossible for him to cultivate back to his current realm. Now that things have come to this, let's save my disciple's soul and Yang Hua first. Li Feng walked over and said, Yin Yu, describe in detail the route Yang Hua took to escape. Just when Yin Yu was about to step forward and explain in detail, her arm was suddenly grabbed by a strong and large hand. She was pulled backward frantically, increasing the distance between her and Li Feng. She looked back in confusion and asked, Boss Su, what are you doing? Su Yu held her arm tightly, his expression slightly grave. Don't believe him. There is something wrong with this elder Li Feng. Huh? Yin Yu found it hard to believe. Elder Li Feng was the Yin-Yang elder of the Taiji sect. He had traveled thousands of miles to save them. How could he end up in such a situation? Mr. Su, maybe you misunderstood Elder Li Feng, Yin Yu said. Su Yu stared fixedly at Li Feng and did not shift his gaze away for even a moment. He then said, Misunderstanding? Do you think it's such a coincidence that he rushed over at this moment? Or could it be that he had been waiting at the entrance for a long time, watching you being chased by the ancient people? Which one is more likely? Yin Yu's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. It would take more than half a year to reach the Taiji sect. Could Li Feng really make it at that critical moment? Moreover, it just so happened that they were about to escape from danger and escape from the tribe of the ancient people? It was too much of a coincidence. On the other hand, the other possibility was more likely. Li Feng had been watching coldly from the side from the entrance. Thinking of this, Yin Yu shuddered. Li Feng furrowed his brows and said, You must be Mr. Su who asked about the wine, right? Although I don't know what kind of prejudice you have against me, it's best if you don't disturb my rescue of my disciple. Otherwise, I'll deal with you right now for harming the Tai Chi sect. Then, he looked at Yin Yu and said, Mr. Su's background is a mystery, and he is also very mysterious. I think the reason why you are in trouble is related to him. Come here quickly. Yin Yu's heart tightened, and she bit her lips as she took a step back, hiding half of her body behind Su Yu. It would have been better if Li Feng hadn't said such words, as after he said them, Yin Yu completely believed Su Yu's words. There was something wrong with Li Feng. Although they didn't know how Mr. Su had appeared here, It would be a pure lie to accuse Su Yu of framing them. Given her situation at that time, so what if Su Yu turned a blind eye to her? Why did he have to kill the ancient person and save her? In comparison, Li Feng's suspicions were far too great. You don't believe me? Li Feng took a step forward and asked. Yin Yu said, It's not that I don't believe you, but Mr. Su saved my life, so I can't bear to treat him as an enemy. I'm sorry. Li Feng suddenly attacked while the word sorry was still fluttering in the air. An incomparably thick chain of rules struck out from his palm and pierced through Su Yu and Yin Yu. His patience was exhausted, and a ferocious look flashed across his face. Then, let's die together. Su Yu was already prepared, and 6 chains emerged from his back, twisting together to collide with the chain of law. Su Yu hadn't recovered to the peak of the double-crown martial emperor, so he was naturally at a disadvantage when he collided with the chain of law. Fortunately, Li Feng's strength was only equivalent to the Sword Alliance Master, which was far from Fu Bingyu's level. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape death today. Su Yu took advantage of the momentum of being knocked back to retreat, holding Yin Yu in his arms. However, he didn't retreat in the direction of the entrance, but in the direction of the ancient people's tribe. Yin Yu was shocked when she saw Li Feng's true face. He wanted to kill them. That undisguised murderous aura made it impossible for Yin Yu to escape. Su Yu was right. Elder Li Feng wanted to kill them. Ah, we're running in the wrong direction. She reminded Su Yu when she saw him flying toward the ancient people's tribe. Su Yu shook his head gravely. There must be another trap at the entrance. We'll die if we go in. Since Li Feng wanted to kill them all, how could he allow them to escape from the ancient people's tribe? Eh? You can actually block my attack? Li Feng was surprised. He had used the chain of law of the 4-crown martial emperor, and anyone below the 4-crown martial emperor level should have been annihilated. Moreover, what are those things? The chain of law? Why are there 6 of them, and they're of different colors? Su Yu didn't reply. He sped toward the ancient people's tribe, saying seriously, as a dignified Yin-Yang elder, you're using your disciples as bait to explore this hidden world. Don't you feel ashamed? Looking at the endless amount of 9 Yin grass, Su Yu realized Li Feng's true motive. From the moment he issued the mission, he had been setting up a trap. Using the 3 disciples as bait, he would lure out the ancient people, then let the ancient people lead the way to this extremely secretive ancient people's tribe. Li Feng must have personally seen the ancient people use the 9 Yin grass to hunt bat. He concluded that there was a hidden world in this underground world that no one knew about, and there must be a lot of 9 Yin grass there. But the ancient people were very good at hiding in the dark underground world. Li Feng had not been able to catch up to the ancient people many times and discover where they were hiding. So he had done something to the disciples who accepted the mission, letting the ancient people capture them and bring them into the tribe. He could then use those senses to find the entrance to the ancient people's tribe. He had long discovered that his 3 disciples were in danger, but he had no intention of saving them. Because, rather than letting them return alive to report the details of this place to the faction, how could it be better than letting him enjoy the endless 9 Yin grass alone? The best outcome would be for all 3 of them to be killed by the ancient people. But the appearance of the innate essence crystals Yang Hua first, and then Su Yu, had ruined this perfect outcome. He had no choice but to act personally and kill them. He had asked about Yang Hua's escape route, most likely to make it easier for him to kill Yang Hua, not to rescue them. Understanding this, Su Yu secretly felt lucky. Fortunately, he had decided to come down personally to investigate. Otherwise, if Li Feng's plan succeeded, Yin Yu and the others would all die here, and his plan to wait for the ancient people's tribe would be completely ruined. As for the current pursuit, he could only escape into the dark forest. Once inside, he would think of a way to hide. Humph! Boss Su is very cunning. You could predict that there would be an ambush at the entrance. But so what? In this ancient people's tribe, you are like a turtle in a jar. Where can you escape to? Li Feng coldly rebuked, speeding up his pursuit. Yin Yu's heart trembled when she heard this. Was there really danger hidden at the entrance? Boss Su really had incredible foresight. The two of them dashed into the ancient people's tribe. They were met with a group of extremely fierce ancient people. Even Li Feng would have to be cautious when faced with such a lineup, right? As expected, Li Feng slowed down from afar, watching as Su Yu and the others dashed into the ancient people's tribe. The moment they dashed in, Su Yu enveloped the two of them with space energy and instantly transported them far away. They appeared at the edge of the dark forest. Li Feng was stunned. He was about to chase after them, but he was seen as a target of hatred by the ancient people. It should be known that he had killed more than 10 ancient people alone. Naturally, he was considered the greatest threat. Li Feng dodged left and right. With great difficulty, he managed to shake off the ancient people. When he looked up, Su Yu and the others had already escaped into the dark forest. Where can you escape to? Li Feng smiled disdainfully. No matter how big this hidden world was, could it be bigger than the underground world outside? In less than a day, he could search the entire dark forest. Looking at the ancient people, Li Feng was not concerned. They could not threaten him. However, he must not let those who knew about this place return to the Tai Chi faction. With a flash, Li Feng also chased into the dark forest. The strange thing was that the tens of thousands of fierce ancient people chased them to the dark forest and refused to take another step forward. They seemed to have an indescribable fear of the dark forest. In the forest, Su Yu dashed all the way. Half a day later, when he was sure that he had shaken off Li Feng, he stopped. Yin Yu looked at Su Yu deeply and bowed gratefully. I am Yin Yu. Thank you, Boss Su, for saving me twice. I will never forget your kindness. Let's not talk about these useless things. Let's think about the situation before us, Su Yu said with a frown. In this ancient people's tribe, Li Feng, who was a 4-crown emperor, was an invincible existence. How to escape from his pursuit was a big problem. Moreover, this dark forest gave him an equally uneasy feeling. To be precise, the uneasiness he had felt in the sky above the oasis came from this forest. That underground world, including the ancient people, did not give Su Yu such an uneasy feeling. Only this forest gave him an ominous feeling. This was definitely not a place to stay for long. Yin Yu muttered, "Why don't we find Yang Hua? He has self-detonated his innate origin crystal, and the power he has unleashed is extraordinary. If he joins forces with us, there might be a glimmer of hope." Su Yu shook his head without hesitation. It's useless. The strength of the 4-crown emperor cannot be compensated by numbers. He had personally killed 2 4-crown emperors, so he knew how powerful they were. It was unrealistic to expect 2 people at the peak of the 3-crown emperor to be able to contend with them. Let's go deeper and look for a suitable place to hide, Su Yu said to himself. Half a day passed. They finally arrived at the edge of the dark forest. If they went any further, they would be surrounded by nothingness. If they took another step, they would die. Boss Su, look over there. Yin Yu noticed that there was a decaying wooden house at the edge of the forest, not far away. The wooden house had long been covered by plants and had collapsed. Only one corner was barely holding on. How about we hide there? Yin Yu asked. Su Yu asked, if you were Li Feng, you would have found this place to hide. Would you not check it? Yin Yu was speechless. Li Feng would never let such an obvious place slip by. Chapter 1979. Yin Yu followed her gaze and exclaimed in a low voice, "It's Yang Hua. He's hiding here." Their conversation was not concealed, and it was transmitted into the house. With a whoosh, Yang Hua's figure appeared from within the house. His soul was still burning, and he was holding his body tightly under his armpit. "Yin Yu, it's great that you're all right." Yang Hua stepped forward in surprise and excitedly held onto Yin Yu's shoulders. Yin Yu calmly dodged and said, "Thanks to you, I'm still alive." Yang Hua looked a little embarrassed. I had intended to go back and save him, but there was no way out of this place. I ended up in a dead end. Yin Yu's face was expressionless, and she didn't respond. Yang Hua then turned to look at Su Yu in surprise. Boss Su, what are you doing here? His tone was rather unfriendly as he questioned Yang Ling. Yin Yu's eyes turned cold as she said, Boss Su saved me. Do you have a problem with that? Him? Yang Hua did not believe it at all. With Su Yu's single crown martial emperor realm, could he rescue her from the hands of that ancient person? But no matter what, this was not the time to be calculative. You were also cornered, weren't you? Come in here. I have something to show you. Yang Hua stared at Su Yu as he spoke. Su Yu thought for a moment, then nodded. Lead the way. He then followed Yang Hua into the wooden house. He discovered that the wooden house, which looked like it only had one corner left, was actually a different world. Most of the wooden house had collapsed, but a small part of it still remained. In the remaining corner, there were 10 statues of ancient beings. They were of different shapes and sizes, but they all had one thing in common: they were full of ferocious energy. 9 of them had been severely damaged, and only one was still relatively intact. Looking at the statue, Su Yu's pupils shrank. He could actually feel a very weak absolute beginning energy from the statue. The statue was holding a stone hammer, and the energy emitted by the stone hammer was quite terrifying. It was no weaker than the royal dragon sword. Yin Yu's eyes flickered as she realized that the stone hammer was extraordinary. Looking at Yang Hua again, her eyes were shining with greed, but she could not get rid of a trace of fear. As you can see, this stone hammer is definitely a rare divine object. If used properly, it might even be able to contend against the ancient people outside. Yang Hua's eyes were filled with excitement. But this statue is quite strange. I've tried everything I could to take the stone hammer down. Since you're here, why don't we think of a way to take it down together? Yin Yu did not tell Yang Hua that the danger outside was no longer the ancient people, but the more dangerous Li Feng. Let me try. She stepped forward and used all of her power to forcefully remove the stone hammer. But just as Yang Hua had said, the stone hammer seemed to have grown out of the statue and could not be taken out at all. Then, he tried to bombard the statue, but it didn't move at all. This stone hammer is very strange. Yin Yu was helpless. Yang Hua's eyes were filled with disappointment. She took a look at Su Yu, then looked away expressionlessly. Even he and Fairy Yin Yu could not do it, let alone Su Yu. Mr. Su? Why don't you give it a try? Perhaps this is our chance. Yin Yu was full of expectations for Su Yu. Su Yu muttered to himself irresolutely. Since Yang Hua and Yin Yu had tried it, it meant that brute force was not feasible. It would be pointless for him to try again. Then, Su Yu's heart moved slightly. He tried to imitate the ancient people's language and spoke in gibberish. Yang Hua and Yin Yu were baffled when they heard this. They could not understand him at all. But strangely, with a clattering sound, the stone hammer actually fell. Yin Yu was stunned, and so was Yang Hua. But Yin Yu's reaction was faster. She took a step forward and picked up the stone hammer, holding it tightly in her palm. Feeling the shocking power contained in the stone hammer, Yang Hua could not help but laugh loudly. Yin Yu's pretty face darkened. She shouted, Mr. Su found a way to get it. Senior brother, quickly return it to him. Yang Hua held the stone hammer tightly and said confidently, I found it first, so it is naturally mine. Yin Yu was slightly angry. She said, Senior brother, don't disappoint me. Return it to Mr. Su immediately. I will still agree to Master's request. She still decided to give Yang Hua a chance. Junior sister, whose side are you on? Yang Hua frowned deeply. She was very displeased. Yin Yu saw that Yang Hua had no more hope. She shook her head in disappointment. I should have known from the start that you were this kind of person. Back at Yunxiang brothel, Yang Hua had willingly drunk it. Pure Yang, who had a guilty past, should have known what kind of person Yang Hua was. Now it was just more evidence of Yinyu's thoughts. She could give up on the idea of marriage. Yang Hua's heart was burning with anger. It seemed that her junior sister had a good impression of this Mr. Su. Junior sister, come over here. This Mr. Su is not a reliable person. Be careful that he does not betray you. Yang Hua tried to imbue the stone hammer with her primal power. As expected, she felt a destructive force that had been suppressed for a long time. Her heart was filled with murderous intent. There was no better time than now to avenge the fact that she had been poisoned to the ground. If she let him die here quietly, who would pursue the matter? Hearing this, Yinyu returned to Su Yu's side without a word. Her attitude was unusually firm. Who was reliable and who was unreliable? Was there even a need to say it? Yang Hua and Su Yu had already compared each other when she was in danger. It was laughable that Yang Hua was so full of himself that he still had the face to slander someone else. Seeing the woman he loved choose to trust another man without hesitation, Yang Hua's heart was filled with anger. He had tried so hard to woo Yinyu, but to no avail. She had never shown him any kindness. Now, she would rather trust a man whom she had only met a few times. Was there any need to pursue such a woman? An evil thought bloomed in his heart. There was no one here. If he killed Su Yu, then imprisoned Yinyu in his cavern world and played with her for the rest of her life, who would know? The more he thought about it, the deeper the evil thought in his heart became. In the end, it turned into a glow of excitement. The dark side of his heart was revealed in this unseen place. Hee, since junior sister would rather die than to trust an outsider, don't blame me for using a different method to obtain you forever. As soon as he finished speaking, the stone hammer was activated. A terrifying sound wave appeared along with the movement of the stone hammer, sweeping towards Su Yu and Yinyu. Su Yu's expression did not change. It was as if he had already expected it. He grabbed Yinyu and left the decaying wooden house. Yang Hua did not manage to catch up. He was furious. Where do you think you're going? He held the stone hammer in his hand and was about to chase after them. Suddenly, a sinister laugh came from the sound wave. Then, there was a mumbling sound, but it was impossible to understand what language it was. Then, Yang Hua's whole soul stiffened, and the corpse under his armpit fell to the ground silently. Within the stone hammer, a ray of emerald light slowly drilled out and entered Yang Hua's body. Then, the body slowly opened its eyes, and a pair of indifferent and contemptuous eyes suddenly shot out. Yang Hua watched helplessly as his body was occupied by a mysterious soul. He was extremely shocked, but his body was strangely unable to move, as if it was being suppressed by the stone hammer in his hand. The head of the body turned around and glanced at Yang Hua. All of a sudden, Yang Hua felt as if his soul was about to explode, and all of his memories were being flipped through. After a moment of silence, the body mumbled a few words in an indistinct language. Then, the pronunciation gradually became closer to the common language of the great beginning realm. After a few breaths, the words became clearer. The tree wants peace, but the wind never ceases. I originally wanted to wait until the end of this era and the beginning of a new era before showing myself. I didn't expect you humans to accidentally wake me up from my slumber, the body said indifferently. Yang Hua swallowed deeply and said fearfully, Say, Senior, you are? He did not understand what the end of an era and the beginning of a new era was. The only thing he understood was that the body in front of him did not emit any hostility, but Yang Hua had the illusion that he was about to die. Me? In your words, it should be an ancestor identity similar to the ancient people. However, I prefer people to call me human demon. Human demon? A demon among humans? Yang Hua's heart was extremely cold. Just from the name, he knew that this person was not a good person. Don't be afraid. Although I used to kill for fun, I got the title of demonic human and was besieged by many star overlord. But I miss you so much after seeing you again. I won't kill you in a short time. Don't worry. Not in the short term, but in the long term. Yang Hua's heart relaxed slightly, but he could not calm the shock in his heart. He had been attacked by the so-called star overlords, so what was his strength? My current strength? It's hard to say. I wouldn't be afraid of your so-called path masters, but now that I'm just a remnant soul, my strength is no longer what it used to be. As for how much, I need to test it out. Your two companions can be used as test targets, but unfortunately, that silver-haired human is smarter than you. He already predicted that the stone hammer was not too good, so he did not touch the stone hammer. Otherwise, with his ability of the law of space, how could you have defeated him? If ordinary people knew that Su Yu had the law of space, they would have been extremely shocked. But the human demon was very calm, as if he had met many similar people before. As he spoke, the human demon's eyes suddenly flashed. Oh? A more suitable test target has come. Using the current cultivation level of this era, it should be a 4-crown emperor. Let's go and test my strength. The human demon put his hands behind his back. He did not move at all, but he teleported with Yang Hua. Li Feng searched the dense forest for an entire day, and most of the area was searched. Just as he was about to continue searching, a strong space fluctuation suddenly appeared in front of him. Yang Hua, who was standing with her hands behind her back, and a person whose whole body was burning with flames walked out from it. Looking at Yang Hua, Li Feng's expression relaxed. He had found one. He smiled. Haha, so it's Yang Hua. I heard that you were in danger, so I came to find you immediately. I am relieved to see that you are fine. As he spoke, his figure suddenly flashed forward, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. It seems that you still don't know anything. That's fine. There is no pain in being a muddle-headed ghost. To prevent an accident like Su Yu's escape from happening again, he used the chain of rules. He imagined that Yang Hua would be killed in an instant, but Yang Hua casually stretched out her palm and grabbed the chain of rules with her palm. The human demon commented with some interest, condensing the rules into chains? Those people on the Holy Mountain have not improved much, so they can't play any tricks. Chapter 1980. How was it possible to grasp the laws with one hand? The sect master couldn't possibly grab the laws with his bare hands, right? It should be known that the laws were existences that existed between reality and illusion. They were projections of the laws of heaven and earth, so how could they possibly be grasped by others? Li Feng suddenly jerked, wanting to retract his laws. However, the chains remained in his opponent's hand without budging an inch. You are not Yang Hua. Who are you? Li Feng finally realized something was wrong. The human demon looked up. Me? You probably don't need to know who I am. Then, with a flick of his finger, he flicked it back. Li Feng's heart stirred and he retracted his laws. However, he did not expect that the chains would carry with them an unparalleled force, and he was actually unable to stop their momentum. With a mournful howl, Li Feng's body was smashed into pieces by his own chains. To be more precise, his soul was smashed together with his body. A hint of disappointment flashed across the human demon's eyes, and he shook his head. The current 4-crown Emperor warriors are too weak. But I've barely managed to test out my remaining strength. I'm probably at the peak of 5-crown Emperor warriors. Although I'm not as strong as your Taoist master, there shouldn't be anyone below the Taoist master who can match me. Yang Hua swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The one in front of him was a 4-crown emperor, yet he could kill him with a flick of a finger. Yang Hua did not doubt that he had the strength of a peak 5-crown emperor. This time, Yang Hua started to feel anxious. After the test of strength, would it be his turn to be dealt with next? Don't be afraid. The demon's eyes were extremely penetrating, as if he could see through Yang Hua's heart. He said, I'm just a remnant soul that needs to rest occasionally. That's why I need someone I can trust to guard me. You're very suitable, so I won't do anything to you in the short term. This was the second time he mentioned the word, in a short period of time. In other words, with the human demon's murderous nature, there was no guarantee that he would be safe for a long time. But Yang Hua didn't have the right to choose. She said, "Many thanks for Senior's appreciation, but my strength is weak. I'm afraid I'm not up to the task." "Of course you're not qualified. With that little ability of yours, who can you stop?" The human demon did not mind and said, "During this time, I will guide your cultivation. At the very least, you need to raise your cultivation to the level of a 4-crown emperor." Hearing this, Yang Hua's heart skipped a beat. 4-crown emperor. He dreamed about it even in his dreams. According to his plan, it would take at least another 300 years. "Dare I ask, Senior Human Demon, how long will it take?" Yang Hua asked expectantly. She realized that encountering the human demon might not be a bad thing. "How long?" A few years," Human Devil said casually. Yang Hua's pupils constricted. Just a few years? The shock in his heart could be imagined. "Thank you, Senior, thank you." Yang Hua was extremely excited. At this moment, she was even a little grateful that Su Yu had not snatched the stone hammer. Otherwise, such a great opportunity would not have fallen into his lap. He didn't know that the corner of the human demon's mouth curled up in disdain. The heavenly Tao is eternal. Forcefully increasing one's cultivation in a short period of time was bound to come at a terrible price. Given the demonic human's personality, he didn't seem like someone who would patiently nurture others. Hee. The human demon chuckled. "Let's go and see my descendants who have degenerated into savages." Su Yu hugged Yin and ran toward the cliff. After he opened the passageway, he discovered that there was indeed a formation that had been set up temporarily. The formation was set up in a hurry, so it was not a powerful offensive formation, but a trapping formation that could trap people. Yin was secretly impressed. Fortunately, Su Yu had foresight and predicted that there would be an ambush. If she had entered without knowing what was going on and fallen into the trapping formation, she wouldn't have been able to escape. Su Yu opened his mouth and spat out a double-crown divine level true fire. It burned for 10 breaths' time before the ancient formation was extinguished. Without any more obstacles, Su Yu and Yin rushed out of the underground world without hesitation. From the beginning to the end, Su Yu did not look back, nor did he miss the countless 9 herbs. Because just now, he had a strong premonition of unease. It was the stone hammer. Something extremely dangerous must have been born. The two crossed the Sea of Death and returned to Taiji City half a year later. Along the way, Yin was extremely grateful to Su Yu and took the initiative to chat with him. They were now very familiar with each other. "Boss Su," Yin said, "I will return to thank you another day," she said. "I need to return to my master and explain what happened in the underground world." 2 disciples had disappeared one after another. As a companion, Yin needed to clarify the matter. Su Yu opened his mouth, reminding her to hide the 9 herbs. With how much the Taiji faction valued the 9 herbs, they would immediately send strong fighters to exterminate the ancient tribe. If they encountered that dangerous thing, it would bring them great trouble. But the words stopped at the tip of his tongue. As an outsider, his words did not carry much weight. He could not stop the Taiji faction. Yin could not say anything, but the Taiji faction would definitely search the souls of the 2 missing disciples. They would have a way to find out what happened inside. Moreover, there was still Li Feng and Yang Hua. He could shut Yinyu's mouth, but could he shut them up? "Boss Su, what do you want to say?" Yinyu asked. Su Yu shook his head. "Nothing, take care." He returned to Wenjiu alone. There was no one in the front hall, but Mo Shaochai was in the back hall, guiding Huang Fuliang's training. What was even more shocking was that Huang Fuliang's cultivation base had improved significantly in just a year. He was already a late-stage double-crown divine warrior, but his aura had reached its peak. It was only a matter of time before he broke through to the triple-crown divine warrior. Su Yu's eyes flickered. This Mo Xiaochai must have taken a fancy to Huang Fu Laiyang. She looked muddle-headed, but she was actually very shrewd. It was just that she was very good at hiding it. Brother Su, you are back? Huang Fu Laiyang was excited. He stopped his training and quickly stepped forward. Su Yu nodded. I was lucky to escape. Mo Xiaochai also walked over. Congratulations! She clenched her fists and rubbed her teeth. Although she was congratulating Su Yu, her eyes were filled with unwillingness and disappointment. Su Yu's face twitched. He had returned alive, but Mo Xiaochai could not divide his assets. Su Yu understood this, but there was no need to be so obvious. Brother Su, did you meet with danger? Su Yu nodded. Yes, it's a long story. I will go into seclusion to deal with the 9 grass I obtained. I will tell you in detail when I come out. Okay. Huang Fu Laiyang was delighted to know that Su Yu had obtained the 9 grass. Su Yu entered the secret room. After ensuring that the outside world could not see, he took out a large field of 9 grass. There were 100 of them. Su Yu was more interested in the seeds. After carefully peeling off all the seeds, he brought them into the 9 jade spiritual pearl and planted them in the nursery. The 9 grass only needed 3 years to mature. Based on the nursery's speed, it would only take 2 years in the outside world for the 9 grass to fully mature. After planting it, Su Yu found thousands of shoots. He felt relieved and went to the side of Xiao Dai's cocoon. Compared to the past, the little butterfly cocoon was now golden in color and emitted bursts of light from within. A slender, tall, and graceful figure of a woman could be faintly seen. Is her 4th evolution about to succeed? Su Yu was secretly looking forward to it. It looked like Xiao Dai would mature a little more. From a caterpillar to a butterfly, then to a young girl. Now, she was probably an adult. After watching for a while, Su Yu returned to the outside world. After thinking for a while, Su Yu entered the Taishu Xian Palace and looked for objects with abundant absolute beginning energy. He used the ancient lamp on his chest to project an image of the Path Master's lecture. He listened attentively, his mind clear. Many of the doubts in his mind were suddenly cleared. After a long time, the projection turned into crumbling light spots and fused into his soul. Another faint golden light spot formed. This was the soul path fragment. In recent years, every time he listened to the Path Master's lecture, he would receive a soul path fragment. Now, it could be clearly seen that there were 10 fragments on Su Yu's soul. After leaving the Taishu Xian Palace, several days had passed in the outside world. With a glance, he found that the 9 grass in the 9 jade spiritual pearl had all matured. There were tens of thousands of 9 grass, and because they were the purest wild seeds, the 9 grass that grew was very pure. It was the best main ingredient for refining the 9 elixir. He could start refining the 9 elixir now. He came out of isolation. Huang Fu Laiyang was meditating in the back hall. When he saw Su Yu come out, he could not help but ask with concern if Su Yu was injured. Su Yu smiled and told him what had happened that day. Huang Fu Laiyang was dumbfounded. Brother Su, it's a blessing that you can come back. Huang Fu Laiyang sighed. He thought that if he had been in Su Yu's shoes, he would not have been able to escape even if he had 10 lives. Su Yu calmly said, Since you are fine, there is no need to talk further. Let's prepare to make the 9 elixir. This was what Huang Fu Laiyang was looking forward to the most. How many 9 grass did Brother Su bring back? Did you get more than 100? If there were 100, he should be able to get 2 9 elixirs. 100 should be more than that. Su Yu froze. Huang Fu Laiyang was excited. Could it be 200? Su Yu was speechless. He could not blame Huang Fu Laiyang for not guessing too much. The 9 grass was rare in the past. It was hard to find one, much less hundreds. More than 200. There should be more than 10,000. Huang Fu Laiyang was petrified, stuttering, More 10,000? Yes, that's about it. It should be enough for us to make 209 elixirs. Suyu muttered. But the cost of the supplementary ingredients is an astronomical figure. There were more than 10,000 types of supplementary ingredients for the 9-yin elixir, and they were all expensive ones. One portion of the supplementary ingredients for the 9-yin elixir would cost at least 300 million. Based on the probability of one portion out of 50, one 9-yin elixir would cost 15 billion. In the year that Suyu had left, Huangfu Liang had bought another 100 billion. Adding up to 300 billion, they could only make 29-yin elixirs. The two of them calculated and smiled bitterly. They realized that they had enough 9-yin grass, but money was a hindrance. What? You have 10,000 9-yin grass? It was unknown where Mo Xiaochai had come from. She anxiously rushed over from afar. Her eyes were filled with an aghast look. Suyu nodded. Yes, what do you plan to do? Can I rob you? Mo Xiaochai rubbed her palms, her face filled with excitement. No. Suyu and Huangfu Liang said in unison. Mo Xiaochai curled her lips. Chapter 1981. Tell me about it, Suyu said. Mo Xiaochai seemed to be fooling around, but she was sincerely helping them. Mo Xiaochai laughed. It's simple. Sell the 9-yin herbs to the Tai Chi faction, and they will provide the supplementary materials. How about that? Of course, both of you have to give me a commission, since I'm the middleman. Huangfu Liang covered his face in pain. How painful was it to have such a greedy wife? No problem, Suyu said generously. If you can negotiate, I'll give you a commission. I'll give you one 9-yin herb for every 100 we get, Suyu said generously. He did not lack 9-yin herbs at the moment. If he planted this batch of seeds, he could probably grow tens of millions of them. It's true. Mo Xiaochai was pleasantly surprised. She jumped 3 feet high and danced with joy. A stalk of 9-yin grass was worth 2 billion. Give it all to me. I guarantee that the Tai Chi faction will buy as many as you have. Mo Xiaochai rushed back to the Tai Chi faction to discuss with the faction master. Suyu and Huangfu Liang went to a shop in Tai Chi City to look for an elixir furnace. Considering that the refining process of the 9-yin elixir was complicated, an elixir furnace of a higher grade was needed. I'm afraid it will be difficult to buy the elixir furnace we need in an ordinary shop, Suyu said. With his experience in refining elixirs, even a top-grade true Emperor divine weapon could not last until the end of such a complicated refining process. It would often be destroyed by the continuous elixir fire during the refining process. That's simple, Huangfu Liang said. There's a true jade store in Tai Chi City. It has many rare items, including a top-grade elixir furnace. Suyu nodded and went to the true jade store. Suyu had heard of this store. It was said that it had a high threshold and was not open to just anyone. Usually, they would only receive people of status. When the disciples of the Tai Chi faction arrived, the people inside ignored them. Therefore, the interior of the huge shop was cold and cheerless. When Suyu and Huangfu Liang arrived, the two maids at the door immediately looked pleasantly surprised, coming forward to welcome them. Boss Su, your presence brings light to our humble house. Shopkeeper Huangfu, we have been waiting for you for a long time. Why are you only here now? The two of them were now well-known tycoons in Tai Chi City, with assets of more than 100 billion. Even the slightest bit of his finger was enough for an ordinary martial artist to benefit from for a lifetime. In terms of wealth, most of the Yin and Yang elders of the Taiji sect could not compare. Perhaps only the Earth Elder could compare. Therefore, there was no one in the city who did not know the two of them, unless they had a problem with money. Suyu was still fine, but Huangfu Liang was overwhelmed by the favor. In the past, he didn't even dare to think about such a luxurious shop like the Pure Jade Hall. Now, he had become a member of the upper class of Taiji City. The huge difference between before and after was enough to make one sigh with emotion. Mr. Su, you've come at the right time. Recently, the Zhen Chui Hall is holding a small exhibition. There are many rare items on display. I hope you'll like some of them. Suyu didn't think much of it. Luxurious shops like this one usually didn't make much noise, and they were always sold in the form of exhibitions. Now, he was probably just taking out a few more things to display. Entering the shop, there were many exquisite display cabinets on both sides of the shop, and both sides of the display cabinets were filled with a dazzling array of rare treasures. There were many things that Suyu could not help but look at with interest. For example, there was something called the Acquired Origin Crystal. Suyu had already seen the Innate Origin Crystal from Yang Hua, but the Acquired Origin Crystal was a synthetic imitation. Its effects were naturally not as good as the Innate Origin Crystal, and it was even inferior to the lowest grade of Innate Origin Crystal. But that was only for the strong martial artists who had hopes of becoming Triple Crown Divine Warriors. For many who found it difficult to become Divine Warriors of heaven and earth, the Acquired Origin Crystal was a divine item that could change one's destiny. If it was transplanted into one's body, it could subtly help one break through to become a Double Crown Divine Warrior. Such Acquired Origin Crystals could only be possessed by flourishing 5-star civilizations and above. How much for this item? Suyu did not need the Acquired Origin Crystal, but his old friends from the Dark Star civilization needed it. Many of them did not have much talent for cultivation, and some were even unable to cultivate. If it was transplanted into them, it was believed that a large number of divine warriors of heaven and earth would appear in the near future. The servant said enthusiastically, 100 million divine stones for one. 100 million? That was too high. Many Triple Crown Divine Warriors' lifetime savings did not even amount to 100 million divine stones. But the rarer an item was, the more valuable it was. For many who could not break through to become divine warriors of heaven and earth, the price could not be measured. How much do you have in stock? I'll take it all, Suyu calmly said. The servant gasped and carefully said, Boss Su, we still have 2,000 in stock. If Boss Su needs it, you can buy it in moderation. Perhaps Boss Su thought that there were only a few Acquired Origin Crystals? The servant thought to herself. But Suyu calmly said, Yes, I'll take it all. What? The servant was stunned. Take it all, can't I? Suyu asked. The servant came back to her senses, and her heart trembled. What did it mean to be inhumane? She had finally seen it today. A transaction of 200 billion was done without bargaining. Boss Su, please wait a moment. Such a large transaction requires our boss to personally handle it. Soon, a middle-stage divine warrior of 4 crown divine warriors walked over with a smile. He cupped his fists from afar and said, Boss Su, welcome. I apologize for not going out to meet you. Suyu calmly smiled and returned the greeting. If we can complete this transaction now, we might as well complete it now. Boss Peng was overjoyed. A transaction of 200 billion was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boss Su, you are a generous man, and we are doing business on the same street. I'll give you a 10% discount. Boss Peng took out a space storage device, which contained 2,000 Acquired Origin Crystals. Suyu readily took out a bag of money worth 180 billion divine stones. The two completed the transaction just like that, and the servant girl's eyes widened as they watched. Such a shocking transaction was completed so easily. It was really amazing. Boss Peng was in a good mood, and he was much more enthusiastic towards Suyu. He said, Boss Su, please come in. There are more extraordinary things in the display cabinets inside. Under his guidance, they entered the depths of the Zhen Chui store. There were several figures there, and they looked like the Yin-Yang elders of the Tai Chi faction. They were all looking at the items in the display cabinet. Boss Peng, can you make this fire dragon cheaper? Ing Fengxiao stopped in front of a display cabinet made of jade. A struggling fire dragon was sealed in the cabinet. It seemed to be at the level of a divine warrior of 2 crown divine warriors, and its whole body was covered in layers of flames. Ing Fengxiao was invited to have a look with a few elders. When he first saw the fire dragon, He didn't pay much attention to it. However, upon closer inspection, he was excited to find that this fire dragon was actually a divine dragon of the later stage of the divine warrior of 4 crowned divine warriors, whose cultivation had fallen. This discovery made him extremely happy. What made him the happiest was that the Zhen Chui store, due to their carelessness, did not discover the uniqueness of this fire dragon, and it was sold at the price of an ordinary divine warrior fire dragon. The asking price was 1 billion. He had 10 billion on him, but suddenly spending 1 billion made Ing Fengxiao's heart ache. He bargained with the servant girl in charge of the display cabinet for a long time, but to no avail. Suddenly, he noticed that Boss Peng, who was usually elusive, had appeared. Everyone said that Boss Peng was generous and easy to talk to. Now that he had the chance to meet him, he naturally wanted to give it a try. Boss Peng was showing Su Yu around with great interest. When he heard Su Yu's call, he turned his head and said impatiently, "Fine, I'll pay you 100 million less." He was too lazy to deal with this kind of poor Yin-Yang elder. Ing Fengxiao was overjoyed and said gratefully, "Thank you, Boss Peng." Then, he said to the servant girl, "Let's trade now." The servant girl had no choice but to open the door of the store, ready to complete the trade. "Wait!" Suddenly, Su Yu walked over, his gaze fixed on the fire dragon in the display cabinet. His eyes were filled with vigilance. He had noticed Ing Fengxiao at first, but when he glanced at the fire dragon he wanted to buy, he felt it looked familiar. After carefully sensing its aura, he remembered who he was. In the ruins of the Dew Empire, the fire dragon that had snuck in had forced the evil dragon to hand over the evil dragon Bible, which had benefited Su Yu in the end. After that, it had been injured by Su Yu and escaped without a trace. Su Yu had almost forgotten about it. Who would have thought that he would encounter it in such a place, and it had even become an item on display. "Why, Boss Su, are you interested in this fire dragon?" Boss Peng asked in surprise. Su Yu nodded lightly. "Yes, I have seen this fire dragon before." Boss Peng was surprised. He carefully examined the fire dragon and found that the level of the fire dragon was a little abnormal. After a while, he looked surprised. A true dragon whose level had dropped from the late stage of the 4-crowned divine warrior? Ing Fengxiao's face sank. He had been about to buy it, but Boss Peng had found out. It was impossible to buy it for a few 100 million now. Looking at the label, Boss Peng's face sank. Who appraised this? Fire that appraiser! In fact, that appraiser had been wronged. He was only a 3-crowned divine warrior. How could he have detected the true level of the fire dragon? Then, Boss Peng said to Ing Fengxiao, "If Elder Ing wants it, how about 10 billion? A true dragon at the late stage of the 4-crowned divine warrior was indeed worth the price. 10 billion, Ing Fengxiao's face stiffened. How could he afford it? "If Elder Ing doesn't want it, I'll take it," Su Yu said. The fire dragon's current level might be useless to Su Yu, but its identity as a dragon was very useful. Especially the evil dragon Bible. Su Yu's cultivation of this scripture had reached a bottleneck because of the lack of dragon blood in his body. If he could extract the blood of a true dragon from this fire dragon, he might be able to make a breakthrough in the evil dragon Bible. Boss Peng looked at Su Yu and immediately smiled. He waved his hand nonchalantly. "Haha, it's just 10 billion. It would be a joke if Boss Su were to pay for it. Since Boss Su likes it, I'll give it to you as a gift. There's no need to pay for it." Beside him, Ing Fengxiao had mixed feelings. The young man that he had looked down on in the past had now become a heaven master. Boss Peng would rather give something worth 10 billion to Su Yu for free than sell it to him. Chapter 1982. "Come, wrap up the real dragon and give it to Boss Su," Boss Peng said quickly, ignoring Ing Fengxiao. Ing Fengxiao's face turned green and purple. He felt humiliated, so he left with a light snort. Boss Peng didn't mind. He was just a Yin-Yang elder. "Thank you, Boss Peng," Su Yu said. "It would be rude not to buy something decent after receiving such a favor. I need a superior elixir furnace. Do you have any recommendations? Boss Peng stroked his beard and said, Elixir furnace. What kind of superior technique are you talking about? There were many grades of elixir furnaces. What was superior in the eyes of ordinary people was just an ordinary grade in the eyes of alchemy masters. The best you have here, of course, Suyu said. Thus, Boss Peng revealed a deep smile on his face again. Haha, could it be that Boss Su has some inside information and has come here specially? What do you mean? Suyu was surprised. Boss Peng chuckled and revealed a meaningful expression. Recently, our True Essence store accidentally received a top-notch alchemy furnace from another 5-star civilization. I originally planned to keep this alchemy furnace as the treasure of the store and sell it a few days later. However, I didn't expect Boss Su to be so well informed and come to investigate in advance. Suyu was stunned. What a coincidence! What kind of elixir furnace could catch Boss Peng's eye and become the store's treasure? Suyu was curious. With the collection of the Zhen Chui store, even an ordinary true Emperor Divine weapon would not be qualified to become the store's treasure. If a 4-crowned Emperor-level fire dragon could be given to Suyu so casually, that elixir furnace must be extraordinary. Haha, that elixir furnace is indeed extraordinary. It is a doctrine artifact fairy embryo. Boss Peng's eyes shone. Doctrine artifact fairy embryo? Suyu's pupils shrank. He was shocked. You received such a thing? The so-called doctrine artifact fairy embryo was the embryo of a path master when crafting a doctrine artifact. It contained the path master's lifelong great path. Normally, after a path master created a fairy embryo, he would continue to craft it until it became a doctrine artifact. Only in rare cases would a doctrine artifact fairy embryo be left behind. For example, the path master suddenly died, or voluntarily gave up on the fairy embryo, but the probability of this happening was almost negligible. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the Dao artifact immortal embryos that existed in the world were even rarer than Dao artifact. On the other hand, only the Dao Master himself could use a Dao artifact. If an outsider obtained it, it would be useless and would not even be able to display its basic effect. However, the Dao artifact immortal embryo had 1% of the power of a Dao artifact. Because it had not taken shape yet, anyone could use it. One could imagine how shocking the value of a Dao artifact immortal embryo was. If it appeared in the present world, even 5 crown emperors would fight to the death over it. Haha, don't be too surprised, Mr. Su. It's really a complete Dao artifact immortal embryo. How could our little Purity Jade Hall get it? Even if I get it, I wouldn't dare to keep it. Boss Peng said meaningfully. Only then did Suyu feel relieved. So it was a flawed Dao artifact immortal embryo. Since Mr. Su is interested, please follow me to have a look, Boss Peng said with a smile. He then led Suyu into a secret room that was covered with layers of seals. Outside the secret room, there were 10 3-crown emperors and 1 4-crown emperors in the early stage standing guard. Under such heavy defenses, unless it was a late-stage 4-crown emperor or above, it would be very difficult for them to succeed. Separated by several layers of seals, Suyu saw the fairy embryo of the doctrine artifact. What left him greatly disappointed was that the base of the immortal embryo was cracked open. There was an incomparably large defect that couldn't be refined into pills at all. With such a cauldron, how could one refine pills? Boss Peng noticed Suyu's expression and said sheepishly, "Don't underestimate it, Boss Su. Although it's an incomplete fairy artifact, part of its functions are still intact. For example, this elixir furnace can release extremely terrifying flames at will. According to my speculation, it must have been refined by a path master who achieved the path of fire." Suyu was unmoved. If he could not make elixirs, what was the point of having elixir fire? I need to refine elixirs recently, so? Suyu was about to refuse when a vague, unfamiliar, and cold voice suddenly came from the 9 jade spiritual pearl. Idiot, that's definitely a good item, that's worth more than the fairy embryo of a Taoist artifact. Hurry up and buy it, this voice. Apart from Little Butterfly, there was no one else in the 9 jade spiritual pearl, right? It's her? Not long ago, Little Butterfly was still in a state of evolution, but now she has awakened? He stared at the Tao treasure immortal embryo again. He really couldn't see what use it had. However, Little Butterfly was most sensitive to treasures. She said it was a good item that was worth more than the Tao treasure immortal embryo, so it couldn't be wrong. Suyu's eyes turned slightly as he continued, so, this cauldron might not be of much use to me. When Boss Peng heard that Suyu wanted to refine elixirs, he knew the deal was off. He said, "It doesn't matter. I believe there aren't many people who can use this item." However, Suyu's tone changed. "However, since it's a Tao treasure immortal embryo, I'm very curious about it. I want to take it back and study it." "Boss Peng, how much do you want?" "I'll buy it." Boss Peng was instantly delighted. He had been worried when he received the incomplete Tao treasure immortal embryo, and he had no confidence that he could sell it. After all, it was only left with elixir fire, which was useless. Even if someone wanted it, he wasn't sure if he could sell it for a suitable price. Boss Peng was overjoyed when he heard Suyu buy it so generously. "Haha, Boss Su, you didn't even ask for the price, but you already bought it. Such generosity is rare even in the Tai Chi civilization. I admire you," Boss Peng praised. Suyu smiled calmly. "Boss Peng, please state your price." Boss Peng thought for a moment and said, "How about 300 billion? 300 billion? Such a high price was enough to make everyone below the 5-crown emperor give up on the idea of buying it." "Sure." Suyu agreed without hesitation. Boss Peng laughed inwardly. The other party didn't even state a price, which showed how rich Suyu was. "However, I don't have that many divine stones. Can I exchange it with the Taishu unique to my wine?" Suyu asked. Bartering was a common method in the world of cultivation. Boss Peng pondered for a moment, then agreed immediately. "No problem." What was the Taishu? It was the hard currency that 100,000 people competed for every time. The current price had been raised to 60 million divine stones. Only 5,000 Taishu could be sold for a high price of 300 billion. 50 pots of Taishu can be sold for 300 billion, Suyu said. Boss Peng agreed immediately. "Deal." Suyu nodded and said, "As the saying goes, rare goods are worth hoarding. Please handle it properly, Boss Peng." "Haha, rest assured, Boss Su. We're all businessmen. How can I not understand this? I'm like Boss Su, only selling 3 pots a month." Boss Peng laughed evilly. He could foresee that in the next year, the price of the Taishu would skyrocket, and the final sale of the divine stones would be more than 300 billion. This was a great deal. After the transaction was completed, Suyu took the holy artifact embryo and bid farewell to Boss Peng. Boss Peng watched Suyu leave. He touched the Taishu in the storage space and chuckled. "Young people don't know how to do business after all." Haha. Suyu and Huang Fu Liang returned to Wenjiu. After giving some instructions, he immediately entered the secret room. Suyu brought the holy artifact embryo into the 9 jade spiritual pearl and came to the side of the cottage. Little Butterfly was still evolving. Her enchanting and graceful body was faintly discernible in the flickering golden light. "Rogue!" A mature, cold, and gentle voice came from the cocoon. Suyu touched his nose. "Let's get down to business. I didn't spend any divine stones on this broken holy artifact embryo. You have to tell me, how is it different?" "Who said this is a broken holy artifact embryo? This is a complete holy artifact embryo." Suyu was stunned. How could such a broken holy artifact embryo be complete? "This is called the groundbreaking furnace. Its opposite is the crippling heaven cauldron. They are both famous holy artifact embryos. Little Butterfly said with slight disdain. All right, I sensed the treasure awakening in time. Otherwise, you would have missed such a great thing. Groundbreaking furnace? A holy artifact? The way of heaven takes away surpluses and makes up for deficiencies. If a holy artifact is too perfect, it will incur the jealousy of the way of heaven and be destroyed. Therefore, a clever path master would destroy a part of the holy artifact embryo if he discovered that the holy artifact embryo he refined was too heaven-defying and attracted the way of heaven. Only then could he successfully condense it into a holy artifact. The thing in front of you is the famous groundbreaking furnace. It should have been refined by a path master who cultivated elixirs. However, for some unknown reason, he gave up halfway and did not continue refining it. Unlike what Boss Peng had said, Little Butterfly was very sure that this item was refined by a path master who cultivated elixirs. Is this item used to refine elixirs? Suyu asked. Little Butterfly thought for a moment. You could say that. What do you mean? Suyu could tell that it was not as simple as refining elixirs. To be precise, the elixirs refined by the groundbreaking furnace are somewhat different. Usually, it uses the sun, the moon, and the stars to refine certain powerful elixirs. Using ordinary materials to refine them is a reckless waste of God's gift. Using the sun, the moon, and the stars to refine? It was impossible to say how much essence a sun, moon, and star contained, but it was certain that they were extremely huge. How terrifying would the elixirs refined be? However, Suyu did not have the ability to refine the sun, moon, and stars for the time being. How should I use this item? With such a huge defect at the bottom, it can't be used to refine elixirs, can it? Suyu asked. Little Butterfly was very familiar with this item. She said, It's very simple. Just mend the defect. Mend? It was easier said than done. This was refined by a path master using his own path. What could mend it? Can't that silver fruit condensed from the heavenly orchid silver bamboo do the trick? Silver fruit? Suyu's heart shook. A silver fruit immediately appeared in his palm. He had not used this fruit to absorb the enemy's attack for a long time. He had almost forgotten about it. Little Butterfly still remembered it. What exactly is this thing? Suyu asked curiously. In fact, he had paid attention to the heavenly orchid silver bamboos. However, no matter how he cultivated them, they could not produce a similar silver fruit. Little Butterfly shook her head lightly. I don't really understand it, but with my ability, I can't bite through this silver fruit. Chapter 1983. He couldn't help but look at it again, his eyes filled with amazement. You can seal it at the damaged area of the earthbreak furnace. That way you can completely fill up the hole, Xiao Dai said. Suyu tried to stuff the silver fruit into the furnace. Sure enough, the bottom of the furnace was blocked, so he didn't have to worry about losing the elixir liquid in the furnace when he was refining elixirs. How do I operate the quasi-earth furnace? Suyu asked deep in thought. Since this item was a complete Tao artifact immortal embryo, then the method to control it was definitely not an ordinary method. Otherwise, with Boss Peng's shrewdness, he would have discovered that this item was definitely not incomplete. The unique characteristic of the earth-breaking furnace is that when it is in an incomplete state, it will only be able to display 1% of its power. However, when it is in a complete state, it will display its full power. Of course, the strength of the user will also be taken into consideration. Try to activate it, and you will know how much of its power you can display. So that was how it was. Thank you for telling me. There's no need to thank me. I'll be able to break out of the cocoon in a few years. Just prepare a delicious meal. Suyu smiled. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Little Butterfly would definitely be satisfied if he could bring something from the Taishu Mystic Palace that contained primordial qi. After his soul returned to his body, Suyu impatiently activated the earth furnace. Great desolate energy poured into it, and a fierce pill flame immediately appeared below the earth shortage cauldron. Soon, the earth shortage cauldron turned bright red. At the same time, several layers of extremely complicated power of laws appeared in the earth scarlet cauldron, lingering in the cauldron for a long time. That strand of law was exceptionally terrifying, completely different from the usual law chains. In comparison, the chains of laws were not even 1/10,000th of the laws in the pill furnace. Could that be the path that the Path Master condensed in the fairy embryo of the Tao artifact? Suyu was shocked. This was merely a trace of the Tao Master's Tao. If the real Tao Master appeared, he could casually release a trace of Tao, and any emperor would be like a speck of dust, instantly destroyed. I wonder what's so special about this whiff of path when it comes to refining elixirs, Suyu speculated. However, Mo Shaochai still hadn't returned from the Taiji sect. Presumably, she was still discussing the matter of exchanging the yin-yang grass with the Taiji sect's sect master. After withdrawing the desolate power, the earth quasi-furnace gradually cooled down and Suyu put it away. Then, with a thought, he took out a small, fiery red dragon covered in seals and revealed a faint smile. "How have you been, true immortal fire dragon?" The red fire dragon's eyes were filled with resentment. It was all thanks to Suyu that it had ended up in such a state. In the past, when he was in the ruins of the Ju dynasty, he fell into Suyu's trap and swallowed a drop of dragon beard grass that had been tempered with Luo deity's tears. As a result, he was poisoned and had no choice but to flee from the Ju dynasty. He hid in another 3-star civilization and secretly healed his injuries. Who knew that he would run into a bounty hunter who accidentally discovered him and launched a 10-year hunt for him? In the end, true immortal fire dragon was no match for the bounty hunter because of the Luotian tears. He fell into the hands of the bounty hunter and was sold to a merchant. Later, it changed hands several times and ended up in the hands of the true Jade Hall. It hated Suyu to the core. He had already obtained the evil dragon Holy Scripture, and as long as he could find a quiet place to cultivate, he would be able to recover to the peak of his cultivation sooner or later. In fact, he might even be able to break through to the Tao Lord realm and become the new dragon monarch. But what was the result? Because of Suyu's interference, the evil dragon Bible had been lost, and he had even ended up being imprisoned. What infuriated it even more was that it had been sold to Suyu in the end. Suyu, true immortal fire dragon, growled in a low voice, his eyes filled with resentment. Suyu laughed coldly. This true immortal fire dragon was sinister and vicious. Suyu had almost died at his hands in the ruins of the Diu Empire. "You probably haven't figured out your current situation," Suyu said calmly. He pointed at a seal casually, releasing a stimulating energy from within. True immortal fire dragon was immediately in extreme pain. His whole body trembled as he begged for mercy. "Stop. Please stop." Suyu retracted his finger and said calmly, "Now that you've fallen into my hands, you should be thinking about how you're going to die instead of thinking about revenge." Suyu had no sympathy for true immortal fire dragon. "Hand over the dragon blood, and I can spare your life for now. Otherwise, I'll take your life immediately, and then I'll take the dragon blood," Suyu shouted. True immortal fire dragon's heart was filled with hatred. But just as Suyu had said, his life and death were all in Suyu's hands. "Here." True immortal fire dragon opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of pure dragon blood. Suyu was delighted. He grabbed the blood from afar and sent it into his body. At once, the surface of his body involuntarily burned with an even more ferocious true dragon divine fire. This was the result of the sudden increase in dragon blood. The amount of dragon blood in his body was more than twice as much as before. Suyu believed that if he held the royal power dragon sword, he would be able to unleash an even greater power. "You did well. Rest well," Suyu said calmly. He kept the fire dragon and flipped open the evil dragon Bible. He had only cultivated the first stage, nirvana of the evil dragon, to the early stages. Without the dragon blood, he was unable to cultivate further. This was his chance. Closing his eyes, he immediately began to cultivate the nirvana of the evil dragon. After half a year, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes. He slammed his hands on the ground, and his whole body turned into a giant black dragon that danced in the air. Its long tail slapped the air, creating an ear-piercing explosion. Soon after, the giant dragon returned to his body. Suyu's eyes were filled with excitement. The Evil Dragon Bible is indeed amazing. Just cultivating the first stage to the middle stage, and my physique has already reached the early stage of a 4-crown emperor. If I had this physique before, I would not have needed 3 years to kill the ice dragon worm that Fu Bingyu transformed into. Of course, it was still not enough to defeat a 4-crown emperor with just his physique. But if he encountered a 4-crown emperor like Li Feng again, he would no longer need to run. It would not be easy for the other party to defeat him. The trip to the authentic cutting store had been fruitful. Not only had he traded the worthless Taishu for a doctrine artifact fairy embryo, he had also obtained true immortal fire dragon, which had greatly increased the strength of his physique. Phew! Suyu let out a breath of turbid air and opened the stone door. What he lacked the most now was his cultivation level. He wondered how the discussion between Mo Xiaochai and the Tai Chi faction master was going. Sensing that Mo Xiaochai's aura was in the back hall, Suyu immediately teleported over. But Mo Xiaochai was holding her chin with both of her hands, and her face was full of bitterness. Huang Fu Liang massaged her shoulders gently. "My wife, if you don't want to trade, then don't trade. We will find a way to refine the 9-yin elixir ourselves. But I feel wronged. That old bastard forgets his morals at the sight of profit. I treated him so well in the past, but he's not even willing to help me with such a small matter." It seemed like the exchange of the yin-yang herb for the supplementary materials had failed. Suyu sighed slightly when he heard this. It was not as easy as she had imagined. Seeing Suyu walk over, Mo Xiaochai could not bear to lose face. "Here, I have only brought you 100 sets of supplementary materials." She placed the space storage device that was filled with supplementary materials on the table, then left in a flash. It seemed like she was too embarrassed to stay. Huang Fu Liang sighed. As he looked at the 100 sets of supplementary materials, a gentle look flashed across his eyes. Is the Tai Chi faction refusing to trade because they are preparing to exploit the underground world of the ancient people's tribe? Suyu asked. Huang Fu Liang sighed deeply. That's right. Originally, the Tai Chi faction master had the intention to trade. But when Fairy Yin reported the situation of the ancient people's tribe and found out that there were countless 9-yin herbs inside, he immediately changed his mind. It was as expected. Could she have stolen these 100 sets of supplementary materials? Suyu asked. Huang Fu Liang smiled bitterly. Since the Tai Chi faction master rejected Mo Xiaochai, he would naturally start to guard against her. How could it be so easy to steal them? Then these are. She bought them with her private savings. Suyu was slightly startled. Mo Xiaochai, who valued money as much as her life, would use her private savings? It seemed like she felt very apologetic. Suyu sighed inwardly. Mo Xiaochai was indeed not as unconventional as she seemed. She had a kind side to her. If you can contact her, please thank her for me. We will find a way to get the supplementary materials. Suyu frowned slightly. The probability of one set of 9-yin herbs was 1 out of 50. To make enough 9-yin elixirs would require a lot of money. Moreover, when the Tai Chi faction brought back a large amount of 9-yin herbs, they would definitely make 9-yin elixirs on a large scale. The demand for supplementary materials would increase greatly. At that time, the value of the supplementary materials would probably increase by several times. Suyu had a slight headache. He took the 100 sets of supplementary materials into the secret room. No matter what, he would first use these 100 sets of supplementary materials. He should be able to make 2 9-ene elixirs. He activated the ditro furnace once again. When the temperature in the furnace was high enough, he placed the tens of thousands of supplementary materials into the furnace one by one according to the elixir recipe. He allowed them to fuse perfectly. Finally, he placed the 100 9-ene herbs. This process was quite complicated. Suyu spent a whole month before he finally completed the process of placing the materials. The next step was to control the flames and slowly make the elixirs. Half a year later, an astonishing cold fragrance soared into the sky and leaked out from the secret chamber. Huang Fu Liang was leaning against a tree, his expression lonely. Ever since Mo Xiaochai had left, she had not appeared for half a year. This made him feel inexplicably worried and apologetic. In the past, he had a deep prejudice against Mo Xiaochai and had never looked her in the eye. Now that he thought about it carefully, with her status, was it really necessary for her to give herself to a lowly person like him for 100 billion divine stones? Unknowingly, his impression of Mo Xiaochai had changed greatly. As he was thinking, he was suddenly attracted by the shocking fragrance coming from the secret room. He was surprised. This is the 9-ene elixir fragrance? But why is it so strong? It does not smell like 2 elixirs. Instead, it smells like the rich fragrance of hundreds of 9-ene elixirs gathered together. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound could be heard. It was as if something had exploded. A huge wave of energy rushed out from the secret room. The whole secret room was blasted into pieces by the wave of energy. Many round, emerald elixirs were shot in all directions. Catch them quickly. Don't let the elixirs escape. Su Yu's slightly embarrassed voice could be heard from the thick smoke. He was holding more than 30 elixirs in his hands, but there were still more than 70 of them shooting in all directions. Huang Fu Liang came back to his senses and immediately joined in the interception. He caught the ejected elixirs. Suyu used the space law to teleport quickly. The two of them were in a flurry. Finally, they managed to catch all the elixirs.